Religion easily has the greatest bullshit story ever told. Think about it. Religion has actually convinced people that there's an invisible man living in the sky who watches everything you do every minute of every day. And the invisible man has a special list of 10 things he does not want you to do. And if you do any of these 10 things, he has a special place full of fire and smoke and burning and torture and anguish where he will send you to live and suffer and burn and choke and scream and cry forever and ever till the end of time. But he loves you. He loves you. He loves you and he needs money.
Did you ever see the concrete stairs of every day? The lunatic, the hypocrite are all lost in the fray. Can't you see their lives are just like yours? An unturned stone and undiscovered door leading to the gift of hope renewed. Eternity for you. The masses of humanity have always had to suffer. The businessman whose master plan controls the world each day is blind to indications of his species' slow decay. Can't you see his life is just like yours? An unturned stone and undiscovered door leading to the gift of hope renewed. Eternity for you. The masses of humanity have always had to suffer. People blow their minds, they choose to resign. This deformed society is part of the design. It'll never go away, it's in the cards that way. The masses of humanity will always have to suffer. A door leading to the gift of hope renewed. Eternity for you. The masses of humanity still clinging to their dignity. The masses of humanity will always have to suffer. Have to suffer.
All right, I'm back, and I'm much more sober. Lois, what you're doing is wrong. I want you to get all this Jew food off the table.
I most certainly will not.
It's me or your religion, Lois. I'm a Catholic, and I want to live in a Catholic house.
Well, I'm a Jew, and I want to live in a nicer house.
You really think I should run for mayor?
Peter, you've got to stop living in your own stupid world.
I'm sorry, but I can't be with someone who doesn't believe in Jesus.
Hey, heard my name.
Wow, Jesus! Oh, you're dead now, Lois. Jesus is gonna kill you, and then we're gonna bury you in a yard next to Kathy Island. I mean, nice weather we're having.
Look, Peter, I thought it might interest you to know that I'm Jewish.
on the other side of the aisle are really quite spectacular.
Fuck you, you muppet.
Small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa, who are holding unacceptable views that they're expressing, do not represent the views of Canadians who have been there for each other, who know that following the science, stepping up to protect each other, is the best way to continue to ensure our freedoms, our rights, our values as a country.
What's up, YouTube, Rumble, Entropy? It's Phil Brown, an East Coast Canadian, coming at you with another episode of Super Conspiracy Thursday. This is episode 118. Is Christianity a Jewish conspiracy? How's everybody doing out there tonight? How are you doing, brother?
Well, I'm doing as well as can be expected, living in a world of lies and deception,
Absolutely.
I hope you're doing well too, but should we just jump right into it?
Yeah. We do have a special guest waiting in the background.
And before we bring the special guest on, I have a little statement. If you're new here, welcome everybody to the podcast. Our mission here is usually focusing on the Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goals and exposing that stuff. And going over retarded news headlines of the week because, we live in clown world.
Clearly.
We use comedy, wear tinfoil hats to cope with the demoralization of society. But once in a while, there's a topic that comes along that I get interested in or Phil gets interested in, and we bring a guest on and we discuss it. So tonight we have Adam Green, who's going to be discussing an unpopular subject regarding Christianity, the subject of cult Jews and the possibility that Christianity is nothing more than an elaborate hoax, a fear-based mind control conspiracy to keep non-Jews in check, as well as, keep us worshiping the Hebrew God of Judaism. Is that true? We're going to find out tonight, possibly, and debate that. Adam will be debating Peter Branscombe at the second hour. And it may be an uncomfortable topic for some Christians who watch our streams, but I believe in questioning everything. So,
yep.
Let's be brutally honest here. Humans have this nature of wanting or needing to believe in something, even if it's real or not. They fall prey to the influence of whoever has the most control over their minds. Look at the pandemic, for example. Climate change, supporting Ukraine, the LGBT stuff. Science has become a religion. Gender ideology has become a cult. Propaganda, psychological operations, they're not new.
No.
Therefore, we must always hold a healthy amount of skepticism for everything presented to us. And over the past 3 years, I'm just going to say, I've noticed a pattern emerging where one, people are easily deceived, and two, people are quick to be offended. So those traits are not attractive at all. So I encourage you to have an open mind. I just want the fucking truth. So I'm done rambling.
Hey.
I'm done rambling. Adam Green, he's a podcaster. He's self-described as having an autistic obsession with Judaism. He's been called an anti-Semite by the ADL, and he's been accused of being a Jew by his haters. He puts an endless amount of hours and research into this topic. And if I were a plumber, or if I needed my pipes fixed, I'd call a plumber. If I need to know about the Jews, I called Adam Green.
Yes.
And that's what we did. So here he is.
You guys are awesome. Thanks for the introduction. That was really sounds like you guys really get it.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And given the thumbnail, it seems like you guys know the answer to the question. And it's pretty just like blatant and obvious if you just look at it with a little bit of discernment.
Well, that's why we brought you on, because listen, we don't pretend to know everything. We have questions.
Absolutely.
And, you seem to be, the expert in this field. And, in an hour from now, we're going to do a debate with a Christian. And he's read the Bible from cover to cover. Have you read the Bible from cover to cover?
No, never cover to cover. I would never waste all that time.
You've read many books about the Bible.
There's so much nonsense and what?
You've read a lot of content, a lot of books about the Bible.
Yes,
yeah,
yes, and read much of it, but never cover to cover. I would never. I've got way better things to do with my life than read it cover to cover.
I have never read it cover to cover either. I can't get through Leviticus.
How many Christians have? And then understood any of it, because it's so wild. Like, you need to really even be able to understand it. And it's always been based on esoteric secrets and the mystical teachings of in the oral law of what it actually means. And it's the greatest conspiracy of all time. You guys got your tinfoil hats. Here we go. It's the greatest, most selling book of all time. It's dominated humanity more than any other thing in the last 2,000 years. The Abrahamic conspiracy through Judaism, who through Christianity and Islam imposed the Torah and the God of Israel on the world. That was the main objective of the Torah, the Hebrew Bible and the Tanakh, to Yahweh, the God of the chosen people in Zion in Israel. He is a jealous God, and his main obsession is stamping out all idol worship, all competition, all other religions of the nations, which is all of the non-Israelite world. And that was the goal, and they were able to accomplish that and use the Roman Empire by infiltrating the Roman Empire with Christianity, spread the Torah by the sword on doing the dirty work for them to spread the Torah around the world. And then the top rabbis, the top rabbi in Judaism, Maimonides in 12th century, it wrote this out very clearly, and this is the consensus, even in Orthodox Judaism, that Christianity ultimately benefited them greatly and prepared the world for the Messianic age. And this is the one world religion. To have all the world worship one God, and he chose this people, and they're the ones that can speak for him, and they gave them this land, and we're destined to serve them and follow them, and they're quote in the Bible, it says they're above us, they're his treasured possession, the apple of his eye, and to convince all of the rest of the world that you are chosen by God, his special people, there's no other greater psyop in human history than that, to convince people that you are special to God and he chose you. And Christians believe that. They affirm and corroborate everything in the Torah and the chosen Abrahamic covenant status of the foreskin-loving, jealous, genocidal monster deity that wants to. The whole agenda of the prophecies are about conquering the Gentile world, the nations, and having them all worship the God of Israel. And through Christianity and Islam, they greatly accomplish that.
I want to show you. I want to show you this. This is a chart that I seen. Shit, where is it now? Share screen. Share screen. I want to show you this chart. Where is this? Entire screen. Okay, here we go. It's not going to let me share it, I guess. But there's this chart that came out, and I'm not allowed to. Screen sharing was canceled. Anyway, at the very top of the conspiracy theory chart is anti-Semitism. Jews run the world. That's the one thing. That's the biggest thing you're not allowed to talk about. Actually, here in Canada, did you know this, Adam, that it's actually illegal to question the Holocaust in Canada?
Sure is. Fuck.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you. I'm going to show
all
you this.
over Europe too. And this is the conspiracy, okay? Because part of their secret is creating Christianity as a Hegelian dialectic to persecute them, to discredit us and turn us into, cast us as the villains throughout human history, and them the poor, persecuted, martyred, God's suffering servant who needs to be it's like divine persecution that benefits them in many ways. I've done many videos showing rabbis saying this in the teachings, and it purifies them so they can return to the land, and then we go from Christians go from persecuting to being their greatest advocate and repenting and being their servants, basically. And Christianity plays the role of the twins, Esau and Jacob. So the reason that we're not allowed to talk, the reason I'm saying all this, the reason we're not allowed to talk about the chosen people, it's essentially blasphemy now, is because the Judeo paradigm has dominated the last 2,000 years and followed the script of them being persecuted. So now it's like no one's allowed to talk about them because they've suffered and they're the suffering people, right? So that's what Christianity gave them, the weaponization of their victimhood.
Yeah, it's like they're immune to criticism or something.
They dismiss it all by saying, "Oh, it's just those evil Gentiles. Esau hates Jacob like a law of nature," and it's just because they say that we killed Jesus and that we worship the devil and that we're the synagogue of Satan. That's they're able to dismiss all the actual reasons for those red herring talking points that they gave us that discredit Christians.
Yeah.
I'll show you this quick clip, Adam. It's getting pretty insane. It's like we're living in a world now where it's upside down clown world. If you question the government, it's medical misinformation. You're a conspiracy theorist, far right extremist, homophobe, trans. Pick a name. These are the names they're calling us. But here's what they're looking like: jail time for questioning stuff. Holocaust denial prison. This is only a minute long, but just check this out.
I rise today to speak to Bill C-19, the Budget Implementation Act, but specifically to one small section, one that adds a new crime to the criminal code. Bill C-19 creates a new offense to prohibit the communication of statements other than in private conversation that willfully promote anti-Semitism by condoning, denying, or downplaying the Holocaust. This new crime would be punishable by up to 2 years in prison. Holocaust deniers are hate mongers. There is no way to question the reality of the Holocaust that is not, by definition, anti-Semitic. Downplaying the Shoah is every bit as morally vile. When people who oppose masking rules pin yellow stars to their chests or dare to compare vaccine mandates to the Nazi war crimes prosecuted at Nuremberg, their facile appropriation of the horror of the Holocaust dishonors the memory of all those who died.
Yeah, wow. So I'm just saying, like, if you're telling me I can't look into something, it's illegal. Well, I can't question the Holocaust because I don't want to
questioning, even investigating or questioning any of their weaponized historical narrative is considered anti-Semitism, and they use the word even downplaying it. So you're not. The big thing is you're not allowed to question the sacred six figure. There's been genocides and excuse me. There's been genocides and mass murders all throughout history, and nobody knows any of the numbers. But this is the one where there's museums all over the world. We shouldn't even talk about this on YouTube, but you guys are going to take it down. This is as far as I'll go. Museums all over the world. It's like through the Judeo narrative, Christianity, the Hegelian dialectic, now there are the suffering people, and it's like it's almost a new religion of them, the chosen to be hated people. And so it's like sadomasochistic against them. It's been terrible. But now they have this narrative where you can't question it, and the sacred six, it gets into gematria, and you know, they've got the special six all over all the museums and stuff. It's very, I mean gematria numerology is like not like a conspiracy theory. This is a very well-known obsession in Kabbalah.
All these things that are taking place. Have you noticed all this jab mandates and stuff on the internet? Misinformation is a new buzzword. You've noticed these things, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. A war on conspiracy theories for 50 years, 70 years.
I just want to put this. What do you think about this? Because there's a comparison here. The Bible seems to establish a rule-based approach for society to be governed by one group, the Jews, and everyone else is not as worthy, it seems. Now, the commandments, there's more than 10, actually, if you check out Leviticus. And
there's
the
different versions, too, right?
Yeah, and the consequences of disobeying these commandments is defined as sin it reminds me of some kind of ancient Chinese social credit score. Basically, disobey, go to hell. But in modern society, disobey, lose social credit points. You're not allowed to participate in society. Do you feel like that's like there's a comparison there?
Absolutely. The 10 Commandments, the first one is that you have to worship Yahweh, the God of the Bible. Otherwise, it's idolatry or it's blasphemy. And the punishment for blasphemy in the Bible is stoning to death. Even the New Testament says if you cause a little one to stumble, it's better to tie a millstone around their neck than to basically have deter somebody from following Jesus. And they've imposed this all over the world. And who does this benefit? Getting the whole world to worship the Davidic king, the king of the J's, as it says on top of the cross, or the Moshiach, the Torah Moshiach of the world, of the God of Israel. It's the number one religion in the world, and this didn't happen by accident. This ultimately benefits them, and there's, in my videos, I go deep into the esoteric proofs of all of this.
I've seen your videos, and you're banned on YouTube, obviously, so that you must be doing something right.
I had 5 channels banned, and my main channel that was banned 2 years ago had 135,000 subs too. And
wow.
And before they started throttling, it was growing so fast. I'd probably have 1 million followers if I hadn't been censored and throttled. What they've taken from me, banned from there, YouTube 5 times, Facebook, Patreon, PayPal, Squarespace, Coinbase, backups, DLive, and Trovo. And this is what happens. It's not. I'm not doing hate. I'm actually anti-hating them. That's part of the trick, is that Christianity tricked them to adopt their God by creating a controlled opposition that has them as the villains of the story. They're villains of they're the villains of the Christian story, but they're also chosen. So that's like the bait and the sell and the benefit.
So I want to back up a bit here. So you're not a Jew, obviously. People accuse you of being a Jew, and you're not anti-Semitic. You're not, when you're talking about
anti-Semitism, and I'm an expert on anti-Semitism. And
it's not like
I condemn Christian anti-Semitism.
Fucking right.
There you go. Which brings me to the point: what were the events that led you to criticizing the Zionist Jews, and the events that led to you, having a revelation that Christianity was potentially a hoax?
Good question. I was raised Christian, raised in Church of Christ, which is Protestant, not Mormon, Church of Christ of Latter-day Saints. Some people, there's a million conspiracies about me that I'm a secret Jesuit or a secret Mormon or Freemason, secret Jew, Mossad, every single thing under the sun. They're all ridiculous. This is what the truth is. Raised Christian, parents, family tried to indoctrinate me. I always thought it was like a weird, like the baptism, the drinking of the blood and the Eucharist and the crackers. I thought it was like just a weird cult. So I was raised and indoctrinated basically into a Jayish blood magic ritual sacrifice, like scapegoat sacrifice cult. So I'm basically forced to go to church camp, vacation Bible school, 3 times a week. My family, and they peer pressure you at the church camps to get baptized, and I just never wanted to do it, and always thought it was a little hokey, even as a kid. I remember my mom reading me storybooks of the Bible, and I'm like, are these real, or are these like made up, fairy tales like all the rest of the mythology that I'm reading everywhere? And she goes, oh no, these are real. This has really happened, and God loves you, and he died, and he sacrificed himself, and you better love him too, otherwise you're going to burn in hell forever. You better, basically getting the nations to believe you have to believe in the power of Hebrew prophecy and the Hebrew God, otherwise you're going to burn in hell. Or you could have eternal life. It's your free choice.
Yeah.
And so I was raised like that, and then the internet came around. I got a little older. I started like researching atheist debates and evolution, and then got into like kind of conspiracies and paying attention to politics. And then Zionism popped up, and I was like, oh, I was basically raised in Zionist byway because all Christians are Zionists. All Christians, New Testament, predicated on the Old Testament, and the Old Testament is the God of Zion. He dwells in Zion. The law will come forth from Zion. All these prophecies about Zion. All Christians are essentially Zionists because they believe in Zionism, the belief of Zion as a biblical thing. So I just been exposing the cult that I was indoctrinated into, basically. And that's kind of what motivates me. And it's the Judeo-Christian, Islamic, Abrahamic, matrix that we're all in.
I got to concur with a lot of that. Like, most religions are all basically the same, right? There's a God, there's a fucking, you got commandments you got to follow. Like, I mean, obviously teachings are different, but essentially at root, it's all the same shit, just regurgitated to the anyway.
The Abrahamic faiths, which is about half the planet right now, they all believe in the same God, the God of Abraham, all of the same patriarchs, Moses, Isaac, Jacob, name them all. They believe in all of them. And even Islam believes in Jesus as a Moshiach type of prophet figure too. So it's a deception on them as well, and it's a deception on the masses of people that follow Judaism. They don't know the inner secrets. In order for it to work, they can't know that all of this is part of the biblical script that they're following in the esoteric Kabbalah secrets.
I stole a clip from you that I'm going to play. I know that you.
I stole from you. I'm going to use it.
No,
too.
It's probably watermarked. Hopefully.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say that because you spend hours and hours and hours and hours watching these videos of sermons and rabbis, and you clip them and you put them out there, and then you've said it, somebody steals it from you and then cuts your name out of the bottom and shares it and claims your work, and now you have to put a watermark over the whole thing.
Those are like the rabbi compilation videos. I make little, compilation videos with a bunch of clips and put it to music, and those are the ones where it hurts when they get way more views than you and they cut off your logo. But
fuck yeah.
Yeah, and
I listen to a lot of stuff. I work full time. It really is like an autistic obsession. Reading nonstop, audibles over and over again, tons of audibles all about religion. Just
sending notes to yourself constantly, dreaming about
all
what
my
you're going to
videos
talk
are basically
about.
the same topic, the same video every time. I'm just hammering it home and slowly progressing with the new information.
Yes, in some of these videos, I don't have this particular topic in hand, where like these Jewish rabbis are actually bragging that they created Jesus as a, like, it's crazy. It's crazy, but these videos exist. But here's one Christian pastor, I believe, in a video that's saying Jews are better than Christians. Where is this now? Jews are we're better. They're better than us.
Every good thing we know, all the things we love about the Bible, they were given to us of the Jewish nation. Israel, their people, the Jews, are better than all of us.
What?
So you'd think if I were to say something like that in a church,
oh wow,
like we're better than the Jews, they'd shut us down, we'd be in the news, we'd be far-right extremists, anti-Semitic, but they, if you bow down to these people, this you can do whatever you want. You can't be a Jewish supremacist. It's fucking weird, to be honest.
The Judaists, people that believe in Judaism, they think that they're chosen by God. They think that they do have a special divine role. They think they have a destiny to heal the world, to Kun Olam, to teach morals and teach the Gentiles to worship the one true God that chose them. And then Christians validate that, and they believe it for them. And it's like they're proud sheep and slaves following the Moshiach of the Torah, which was what the goal of the Moshiach was all along, is to subdue the nations, conquer the nations. It's a theological conquering of the non-Israelite world. And there's verses all over the Old Testament that are linked in the New Testament describing the Messiah. That's like, he will make his enemies the footstool, and he will reign over them, and he will He will trample them and tread the winepress of their blood, smite the nations. It's all out there in front, but Christians have a blind eye to the Torah. They've convinced this is the word of God. Those verses don't really mean that. They're taught to fear and not look into this esoteric secrets of Judaism, so they don't discover these things. So they're playing their role, and they're singing, they're dancing to the Judeo, Torah tune.
I find it very concerning that if you're a Christian and you're reading the Bible, that you're called a Gentile. There's a specific group of people that have been banished from 190 nations over the history of time. They've been kicked out. They're lovers of money, and they're
Other
sneaky,
things.
and they're the people in the Bible that they're saying they're the chosen ones, and we're just Gentiles. And then in real life, we're anti-Semitic if we question it, but they can call us Goyim. And at the same time, we're called white supremacist, far-right extremist, and anti-Semitic. It just concerns me that.
Yeah, I don't think I'm chosen by God like they do. Can you think of a more supremacist thing in the world than you're chosen by the creator of all of the universe? Your special people are chosen.
You would have a complex, wouldn't you? If you were born a Jewish baby, if you were born, you would have this complex, like, I was chosen. You know what I mean? Like,
well, this is what they teach the children too. It's basically child abuse. They teach you that you're chosen by God and you're special, but all of the rest of the world hates you and wants to annihilate you. This is kind of what they indoctrinate into their children, and it's like supremacist, martyr type of complex. They think, oh, you're just jealous of our success, or you're just jealous of, that's another one that they bring up a lot. Or they just say that, like, we don't even know why. It's a law of nature. This is a huge theme in Judaism, that Esau hates Jacob. The twin brother Esau, which represents Christianity and Gentiles, hates them like a law of nature because God said so. So it's like a projection for them to wage war against us, because of these stories. Like, I could get into Amalek and their beliefs on Amalek. Anything that opposes the Torah is like the epitome of all evil, and that they're supposed to blot it out. That's their commandment, to wage war against it. Like, this is not a nice religion. It's an evil religion. And the ADL wanted me censored from Twitter because I quoted Christopher Hitchens that said it's evil, wicked, and savage. And all the top atheists in the world say these things about the Bible, but they just don't go hard enough on the whole like Judeo issue. In my opinion.
So I know you talk a lot about Christianity, but I actually looked into this. This is a screenshot. So there's actually 200 Christian denominations, 45,000 globally. That's crazy. These are people that are within Christianity that they just can't agree on things. So they're like, no, we're omitting this. We're taking away this book. We believe in this part. And then there's Islam. Islam came, I don't know. What year did that come?
600, 700 AD, after the Talmud was completed.
What news?
Yeah. So, you know what I mean? Like, to me,
that's great.
Who's somebody like my grandfather was a Baptist minister. And like when I went over to his house, he'd pray, and I was, as a child, I'm like,
"Fuck you doing?
What's going on?"
Who are you talking to?
Yeah. Anyway, so they explained it. Then I went to Bible, Sunday school, and I really didn't know what to think of it. But like when I experienced like super hard times, or I was going through like troubles in my life, I called out to God or whatever. I tried, right, and it didn't work out for me. And I'm not saying I don't believe in God. I believe in a creator. Somebody created. I don't subscribe to evolution and the Big Bang. I think like we're not here by accident, but I don't claim to understand any of it. So it's a feel good kind of feeling to believe in Christianity, but then you look into it and there's all these things that don't make sense. Like Jesus, this is Jesus, apparently. But then you look into black people look at Jesus like this.
It looks like Colin Kaepernick.
And then Jesus is. Did you see the Chinese Jesus?
What? No, never seen a Chinese one. Let's go.
I'm looking for it. Come on, where are you?
I always thought religion in the day was like the mind control, mass social control of people.
So there's Jesus.
Oh, come on, that looks like a female.
And yeah, okay. Now there's people saying Jesus was a woman.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And then now there's people saying, you know, like, because you know how politics, there's progressive politics, and they always, if you have a good thing, progress kind of destroys it and makes it filthy and disgusting and perverted. It's like this story originated, and then, oh, it was a woman. It was black. He was white. And then, hold on here. Let's see. Now, you know, we got stuff like Britain's first non-binary priest. We got stuff like this. And then we got the Queen James Gay Bible. They revised it and took out all the homosexual stuff. So do you believe in this stuff? Then you got the flags hanging out of here. And then look, this is a Christian church with a guy dressed as a trans clown.
Christianity has been a huge failure where it's led us to now. Having such a Christian Western world, look at what it's gone to.
They don't believe in their own doctrine.
No.
You know what I mean? Like it's progressing into.
That's the problem. There's so many denominations. It's so open to interpretation. It's whatever anybody says. Like, because God doesn't actually ever speak down and you know make clear what His message is. It's just we've got these terrible gospels and Paul's letters and in the New Testament is deeply flawed. That's proof it's not divine, just how flawed it is and how much terrible things have happened because of Christianity and the conflict and the division and the disagreements and that it's caused. And so it's a good point about all the different denominations for sure. Like they can't agree on what it says. And why is it so complicated that you need top theologians to explain to you what it really means and stuff? It's just you're believing other people can speak for God and that gives them power over you. There's no greater mind control than religious mind control, like you said. You just said.
That's what I was. Yeah, that's where I was going.
Right.
Because nowadays we got the fucking idiot box, we got screens, we got radio, we have all kinds of media. And with that, they're able to control the population. But back in the day when they didn't have that sort of thing, religion was the easiest way, right?
And the greatest way to control is with a little bit of 3D chess, a little Hegelian dialectic, right? Where you think you have you have an actual opposition. Like, is not everybody aware in the conspiracy land about controlled opposition, right? It's like
absolutely
full spectrum dominance. The best way to control the opposition is to lead it. So they set up opposition groups. Just let's assume hypothetically 2,000 years ago they decided to set up a controlled opposition to Judaism. What would it look like? And how is it not obvious in clicking in everybody's head that it's Christianity? That's always been the dialectic. It's like the religion for the other side, the evil satanic religion for the Gentiles.
Well, Jesus was a Jew, right? That's
the mythical figure of him is, yes.
I don't know if Jesus was a real person, but you went down that rabbit hole, right? Yourself.
Right. Yeah, I suggest anybody. There's two good books. Richard Carrier's On the Historicity of Jesus that goes into that, and Nailed by David Fitzgerald. Really good books that break down how Jesus. I mean, basically they took the Paul and the first Christians saw visions of a like celestial Jesus figure, and then they later placed him in history with the Gospels, and with edits of the letters. And it becomes clear when you see the Jesus story, it's all derived straight from the Old Testament, straight from pagan sources as well, straight from other things, but mostly the Old Testament. They just quote mine scripture to come up, fake fulfillment of the prophecies and other verses that weren't even prophecies, just completely out of context. So it's a fake prophecy fulfillment. Christians are convinced that they have prophecy powers. Because of basically, it's like a form of predictive programming in a way, where it's like they have this prophecy, they kind of manifest it because Christians and the other people believe, and then they work towards accomplishing their prophecies, their self-fulfilling prophecies, and they go, look, our prophecies are real, so we have special powers. Now, we're going to tell you what God says.
Do you think, what's the end? If this is a 2,000-year-old psyop, and I'm just taking off on your theory here. If this is a 2,000-year-old psyop that was adopted and then it kept progressing and they kept adopting different things for this, what's happening now, what is the fucking end game? And by the way, when it comes to Christmas, you can trace this back to, we talked about this on a stream not too long ago, Phil. People need something to believe in, even if it's a lie. And people believe when they're kids, they believe in Santa Claus. They believe in the Easter Bunny. They believe in the Tooth Fairy. And if you trace this back, Christmas in particular, it started pagan, and then Christianity adopted the pagan traditions of Saturnalia and Yule and incorporated them into their celebration of Christ's birthday, which that for sure is all fabricated. The celebration of the birthday and Christmas and all that garbage. So my question to you, Adam, is what is the end game of this 2,000-year-old alleged psyop? Are the prophecies in Revelation? Are you thinking maybe they're
Revelation says the Christians are going to be destroyed and beheaded, and the Gentiles will be Jesus will tread the winepress of the Gentiles and smite the nations and punish them for their persecution of Jacob. And I can only say what the prophecies are. I don't know that all these things, I hope that they're not able to follow their script and their blueprint and accomplish these prophecies. But remember, Esau and Edom represent Christianity, and there's tons of prophecies about Edom being destroyed. So they believe Edom is the Western world, America, Europe, the English-speaking countries that are Christians, that are like the descendants of Rome, supposedly. So that's who they view as Esau and Edom that's going to be destroyed. All over there's whole chapters, Obadiah in the Torah, about Edom being destroyed and God hating Esau. And in the Zohar and Talmud also, huge theme, Esau and Edom being destroyed. Or Esau also serving, so some being Noahides and serving them as their flock to the nation of priests. So that's the best way to, and there's going to be a Gog and Magog war too, like in Ezekiel, where Ishmael and Esau, Christianity and Islam, are going to clash against each other, and there's going to be a big war, and the Gentiles are going to like mutually destroy each other, and then they're going to rise up and then have their Zio New World Order with the Third Temple from Jerusalem, with their Moshiach, their real world political leader that conquers the world, one world government, one world religion, Mark of the Beast. And the Christians go, oh yeah, all this needs to happen. They want all this to happen because then supposedly Jesus will return. But according to their view in Isaiah 63, Jesus, the Moshiach, is going to return and conquer the nations. And
so do you think these things are going to happen?
And then they will acknowledge, like Messianic Judaism is, Jews for Jesus is growing a lot. They will recognize, oh, he actually was our secret Messiah. But you just can't worship him as God. But he was Moshiach ben Joseph, who is the archetype of Genesis. Joseph in Genesis is sold by his 12 brothers, sold by his brother Judas specifically, like Judah is the Judeans, or Judas sold Jesus, and then he goes into a pit and then slavery in Egypt, and then rises to rule in Egypt. And that is the archetype of Jesus, to be rejected by the Jays. This never actually happened. It's just like the mythology. Rejected by them and goes to the Gentiles. So it's like a reverse psychology. Oh, we don't want you to follow this person. And then that's almost like the trick, like where to get, and they were preying on the susceptible. It's religious warfare. They were preying on the susceptible, vulnerable, like superstitious Gentiles, and even made Judaism Hellenized and adopted pagan-like beliefs in it so they could more easily adopt it.
So
and that's why it was written in Greek. Sorry.
I see some comments in the chat. Obviously, there's always people don't like things.
A lot of triggered Christians that are real insecure because they know what I'm saying. Makes sense.
But I'm wondering, you're not an atheist, right?
I'm not actually. No, I definitely don't believe in the God of Israel, but and I've heard a lot of bad arguments for the proof of a God, but I mean, it's so miraculous, for lack of a better word, just existence at all. So, you know, I don't rule out the idea of something like all of the known universe could just be a tiny little molecule in a whole nother universe, like
it could,
and vice versa. You know, so if that kind of stuff's going on, you know, there could be multi dimensions or whatever. You know, I'm not going to rule out the idea of a higher power, but I tend to say just agnostic, non-religious.
Yeah, like I don't.
I'm in that boat.
Yeah,
I'm totally
me too.
in that boat, bro.
Same.
I don't believe in prophets, especially not
No.
prophets only from this small little area of the Holy Land in the Middle East. I'm not going to let anybody speak. You know, God isn't short on time. If he has the power, he's going to speak and communicate his message to people. You know, I don't need a mediary to speak for God. That's just, you're gullible
Exactly.
if you're believing that other people, you know, think they're chosen. We can speak for God and he chose us. It's like, oh, okay, sure. But Christians go, oh, yes, you are chosen. We believe in your covenant.
Yeah. How do you know?
Suck on the Jew cock.
No, I'm good.
But okay, so here's another point, or talking point that I had: Jesus propaganda versus Satan propaganda. Now, for myself, I do notice an increase of acceptance of Satan in society in recent years. Commercials, for example. So let's just take a pit. Let me get through this talking point here. We got fucking, dating commercials with Satan.
Yep.
We got the fucking satanic shoes. We got a faggot getting sodomized in a music video.
Yes.
Brought
all
him
these,
a lot of attention, didn't it?
Yeah. So
fucking right.
That's very unusual things that you would not have been accepted, say, 40, 30, even 20 years ago. And society's declining. We're accepting more of perversion and progress. So what the hell is what does Satan have to do with this Christianity psyop, would you say?
It's a huge point. It's the stick, basically. The greatest, you've heard this saying before, right? The greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing you he didn't exist. I have a different take. It's the greatest trick the devil ever played was scaring you into worshiping the God of Israel. They use it, I mean, Satan is God's. If you're scared of Satan, if you're a conspiracy theorist online like many are, and it's the Luciferians, it's the Satanists that we're worried about. If you're stuck in the Judeo paradigm, focused on the villain of the Judeo story, basically.
I'll have to admit that we have been mentioning this stuff for a long time.
If you're scared of Satan, that pushes you towards, oh, well, I guess we need to go towards Yahweh, the God of Israel, and we need to go towards the Moshiach as well, Yeshua HaMashiach. That will save us. And honestly, the satanic panic stuff, like, the left does this and pushes the envelope more and more because of the fundamentalist right-wing Christians. Like, they try to antagonize them, and then so the extremes on the left and the right radicalize each other, and because the Christians get more hardcore because they see all the satanic stuff. The leftists push more satanic stuff because they see how it triggers the right-wing people that they have political disagreements with or whatever. So, but the biggest thing is being scared that you're going to be punished in hell, or if you don't believe in the power of Jewish prophecy. That's what it really boils down to. You believe in the blood magic sacrifice of your scapegoat, Jesus, who was sent here to be sacrificed to save your sins because Adam and Eve ate that fruit from the tree and got tricked by that darn. Satan is the controlled opposition to Jesus. To God. God created Satan. Right? Did he create him with free will? Most believe that angels don't have free will. So no. He works for God. God allows him to operate. God just kills Satan instead of having to send himself and his son to be sacrificed to save us. Why wouldn't he just, it's all so absurd and bizarre, and it's just fear-based mind control to, keep you worshiping in fear. This is what the Moshiach in Yahweh wants to do. Trembling Gentiles, scared and trembling and fearful and obedient of the God of Israel. That's what they want, and they accomplish that through Christianity and through Satan.
Fuck yeah, that makes perfect sense. That seriously does, though.
Adam, you don't live in Canada, right?
No.
You know, if you die,
you're lucky,
and you're bad, you're gonna go to Canada when you die.
It's hell over here.
It's clown hell. Yeah. But here's another thing that I see, Adam. Signs from Jesus. So somebody says, you know, oh my, I was cutting wood and I seen Jesus in the wood, but you know what I see?
Imagine having like a young child that is born with a birth defect and then develops brain cancer, and then you're a good Christian, you pray and pray and pray and pray, and she just dies a terrible, long, suffering death. And then you see people online saying, I saw Jesus because I won my football game. Thank you, God, for helping me win my football game. Or, you know, Jesus or God is speaking to us through my toast or on this piece of wood. Meanwhile, there's, you know, so much suffering in the world going on by people that are praying so much, bad things happening to good people, the problem of evil.
What do you
Christians
think
have
the
no explanation? Yep.
What do you think the ramifications would be of a world that completely doesn't believe in any God? What kind of world would that be?
It could be a scary one. Could be scary. But it's also been pretty bad and scary with with a world that does believe in a God. I think if the world believed in a God, but like everybody was a deist, and then they didn't fight over what he supposedly says and what he wants, then maybe it could work out. But that's an interesting question. A world where nobody is religious, a world where Christianity didn't become what it was. I don't think Zion would have the power that it would if half of the world didn't believe in their book. America wouldn't be serving Israel like it does. They wouldn't be sending money like they do because we have our shared Judeo-Christian values, right? And
same here in Canada. We feed the beast. It's
right.
It's great.
It's right on the money.
Oh yeah, in God we trust. In Yahweh we trust. Although the guys that, you know, the
New
Freemasons,
World Order.
the Freemasons that came up with a lot of this stuff, Freemasonry is based on Kabbalah a lot. It's been well documented, and they were deist Freemasons, so basically Kabbalists that came up with a lot of that stuff.
Do you ever notice this? This is something I seen, and I don't know, it's right in front of your face, but people probably don't notice it. You got the serpent, and the
serpent on the staff for sure.
Weird
shit.
And that's part of the deception is, what is that? Oh,
Lisa Marie Presley. Yeah. They all wear this Illuminati shit, you know.
Yeah, well, Jesus actually represents the serpent in a lot of ways.
I've heard something like this before, yeah.
And this is actually what the psyop is that they believe Jesus is like the anti-Messiah to them. He's the Esau Messiah. And Esau is, they believe in Kabbalah and in Judaism, that Esau's guardian angel is Satan, is Samael. So Christianity represents Satan. And that's why they accuse them and they persecute them and prosecute them. And the early Christian Gnostic sects were serpent worshipers, like the Ophites and the Naesenes. They worshiped the serpent, and Jesus is likened to the serpent put up on the brazen serpent up on the staff. Also, they made an idol of him. Moses made an idol of him. So this sounds crazy, but they actually believe that Jesus is the reincarnation of Satan, and that he's doing the role, serving the role as the satanic Messiah in a way. That's why they hate him, but he's also working for them. And he can be redeemed also.
What if we go back before this alleged psyop of Christianity, before that, the Old Testament? Do you think that this certain portion of the Jewish cult here created the Torah themselves?
It was created over many hundreds of years, and it was changed. And we don't even know, like, there's different versions going back just to like the 11th century. So, and they don't match up. Ancient scriptures don't match up perfectly, like what they found at the Dead Sea Scrolls. And but like here's a more interesting question, or kind of what's on my head, not a more interesting question. Like the idea that did they know of the conspiracy when they were writing down the Torah? Were they hiding this plan in the blueprints? And I think it could be a little bit of that, and just after the fact, religious people reading the Bible and like finding Bible codes and taking one verse here and another verse here and kind of mixing them together and coming up with a new. It's called Pesher logic. It's midrashic type of material where they take different verses and come up with new things and new meanings. They go, oh, what does this verse mean? Because it really, the guy that wrote it meant one thing in one context, but then they go, esoterically, mystically, if we read this is what it really means, and then they can develop a plan. Like it's a living entity. They can develop a plan that way over time.
Fuck yeah.
I feel like, something is, when I've read the Old Testament parts of it and the New Testament parts of it, I'm looking at the Old Testament from what I know. Again, I never read it from cover to cover or anything, but a lot of people say that cover to cover. In the Old Testament, God was a vengeful, angry God, and he'll smite you. And he always came in the sky and he was talking to the people. And then he just disappeared one day. He doesn't talk to anybody anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was prophets that were inspired by God, but nobody's inspired by God anymore, and they don't allow any new text, and they've removed text from the book. You know what I mean?
Well, you haven't been on BitChute in YouTube because there's lots of people that claim that they're prophets still today.
Yes,
but there's false prophets. You see, only the ancient Israelite Hebrew prophets are the real ones, according to Christians.
It's fucking crazy.
Well, do you want to see a few clips of some of these people?
Sure, but it's a good point that God used to like interfere and interject and show himself all throughout the Old Testament, but then now he's like nowhere to be found, and then you get these Christians with these philosophical arguments like, oh, he's transcendental and he's outside of space and time. Like, what about in the Old Testament? What changed? So that's obviously not consistent. But yeah, go ahead, play the clips.
Yeah, before I play the clips, it's just like, why do I have to have faith, and why do I have to, like, is Santa Claus, is he going to bring me presents someday if I'm good? Why do I always have to just, here's the definition.
Jesus is going to float down in a cloud and save us, guys. Trust the plan. The Bible says we're going to win.
But
just believe it and we'll win. When we die, we'll go to heaven. That's when we'll get our reward. Go ahead.
I had before I play the clips, I had the definition, the official, because I'm, partially Aspergered. Where is this now? Definition of faith. I had it. I want to show it to you. If I don't have it here, screw it. Screw it. We're going to play the clips. Here's some clips of people that are claiming to be the Messiah returning to modern day life. Claims to be Jesus, one of three.
That word dead to sin.
Jose Luis de Jesus Miranda claims to be the second coming of Jesus Christ, and his followers believe every word.
This is a historic event, knowing that God is here on earth.
I am the second coming of Christ, that Messiah that they've been waiting for.
We first introduced you to de Jesus Miranda in 2006. He runs a worldwide organization, Creciendo en Gracia, or Growing in...
That's enough of that.
Jesus, huh?
That's enough of that one. I don't want to play.
Name him that? Is that his God-given name, Jesus?
See, I don't want to play the whole videos, but just to give you, a taste. Here's the second one.
The man who claims he is Jesus Christ. Only his name is Moses Hlongwane. But he says, like his namesake, he has spent years in the wilderness and has been resurrected as the Son of God.
What the fuck?
So we have two Jesuses already.
One's black,
and
the other one's Hispanic. Like
the third one's on Dr. Phil. Check this out.
I believe my brother believes that he is Jesus, and that has ripped our family apart. I am frightened because my brother is delusional. When Joshua tells me that God speaks through him, I believe that I have lost touch with my brother. When my brother...
Now, I just want to say, these people belong in the same category as the fucking gender pronoun, I'm this man, but I was born a woman people. You know what I mean? They're crazy. They're crazy.
Yeah, you got to wonder, are they actually crazy, or are they just con artists and they can dupe a lot of people? Because religion is like it's like a turnkey setup to run your own little version of the Christian cult.
Well, fair enough.
And con a bunch of people and control people. Religion is a powerful mind control.
Do you want to see another red flag I came across?
I like these, yeah.
Okay, so we see this one, right? Heaven is for real. A little boy's astounding story of his trip to heaven. Now, that's a feel-good story. Like, if you read that book and you're like, yeah, I'm going to go to heaven and things are going to be awesome, and it's just, pickles and vinegar. And then you get another one. Hold on, I got to look for it.
301c tax exempt.
NDE. So this is a different book by another child. The Boy Who Came Back from Heaven. The Boy Who Came Back from Heaven. A true story. Keep that in your cerebellum. Is a best-selling 2010 Christian book that purported to tell the story of Alex Malarkey, experience in heaven after a tragic accident. And then flash forward, the boy who didn't come back from heaven inside a bestseller's deception. Alex Malarkey co-wrote a best-selling book about a near-death experience, and last week admitted he made it up. And his last name's Malarkey.
Malarkey, yeah.
So, these people that are claiming to be Jesus, these people that are these near-death experiences, sorry, I'm just going to have to play a couple more of these before I get to my fucking point. Near-death experience, where we got one near-death experience.
But this story for sure, a Texas teenager sharing a deeply personal story tonight of dying, seeing Jesus, and then coming back to life.
And he is describing what he saw and heard during those minutes without oxygen.
CBS 11's Ken Molestina with an exclusive tonight.
You can imagine what takes place after. But here's another one. So that's Jesus. That's Christianity near-death experience. And then you got the Buddhist.
This is the Buddhist monk who died and came back to life, part 3. As he was standing by the lake of fire, he heard this voice cry out to him. The voice was Buddha burning in the flames. Buddha yelled at him and said, "Do not come to this place. Go warn your family." Suddenly the monk turned.
Christian TikTokers are so cringe, man. I need to follow that guy. That guy looks like he's got some gold I could clip and put up.
Final one, Islam near-death experience.
3 years ago, I was in ICU and I was clinically dead. And this voice, this beautiful voice, came to me and he said, "I want you to go back and learn about Islam."
What the fuck?
When you die,
was working on me. What?
Yeah. So you have these books. People, I went to heaven, and then I lied about it, and then I died, and Islam told me, Buddhists told me, Jesus told, and people claiming to be Jesus. It's like I'm being bombarded with psyops and lies.
I debate with Christians and I say, like, there's no miracles, he doesn't answer prayers and there's no miracles like there are in the Bible. And they go, yes, there are. There's lots of miracles. And then, like, these are probably the nonsense that they're talking about. Same quality of supposed miracles that are happening.
Yeah. We're at our hour is over with. I'm wondering if Peter is watching. If he wants to come on and debate with Adam, you game for a debate?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have evidence it's you believe in, and he has evidence that he believes in, and I think it's awesome that two people can come together and debate, have a friendly debate, and talk about these things.
I might not be friendly.
Yeah, I know, but you don't like wish death upon him or anything. I've seen you. No. I've seen you in some debates where you're pretty harsh. But like, it's, when somebody's passionate about something on either side, then it may come off as, being on the defense mode kind of thing.
Is this another Canuck?
Oh, yes. This guy, This fella Peter, he actually helped me plant my first garden this year. So he's a good fella. I don't know if he's gonna join us. Are you in the chat, Peter?
I might have already deconverted him just with this first hour. He's like, "Oh man, it is a hoax."
Very well. I mean, it seems as though, you know what I mean. Everything, even I've seen things where they're comparing Jesus to sun worship and that whole idea, and it kind of makes sense too. I don't know, man.
Mm-hmm.
It all seems to meld together for me. So religion makes no sense. I don't think anyway. I do believe in a creator. I definitely don't buy the bullshit that they sell us about fucking, what is it?
He's coming. He's coming.
The whole theory of
Adam and Eve?
evolution.
You
Adam
don't
and
believe
Eve. No.
What do you think's
man.
more likely, evolution or Adam and Eve?
Well, you know what?
That's a
Adam and
fucking
Eve
tough
6,000
question.
years ago.
I don't believe in evolution or Adam and Eve. Well, I don't know. You know what? Here's something that I think about.
Believe in alien seeding?
No.
Then where did they
listen.
come from? Okay, go ahead.
Hear me out.
Aliens could be demons. Like I truly believe good and evil exist. Good and evil clearly exist, and there's got to be you know what I mean. If you believe in a creator, maybe it's because we're stuck in the binary system. I believe this, but there's got to be a yin to a yang, right? At least in my opinion. If there's good, there's got to be evil. If there's a Lord, there's got to be a devil. If there's,
Do you think that a creator that was good would create animals where they have to brutally hunt down and murder other animals to survive?
No. There's a lot of things that makes me believe that.
If I was
maybe
a
we're
creator and I was good, I wouldn't have all that endless suffering of all these animals getting their insides eaten out and hunted, or your little baby eaten by the coyote in front of you, something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's a good argument against a creator.
Fair.
Yeah, did I send you the link, Peter? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I did. The wife was asking me. But no, you asked about Adam and Eve or whatever. Now, that's a Bible story. But here's what I think of. You have a child, right, Adam?
I do, yeah.
So when that baby was born, you realized you looked at that baby and that was an entity that would not be able to take care of itself. It would die if its mother didn't feed it its tit. It couldn't hunt, survive, and eat. It would just lay there and pretty much die. Where the fuck did the first one come from? That's what I think of. Where did the first one come from? Because the first one couldn't take care of itself, so it had to have been created. And I'm not saying it's the biblical story, but I'm saying
if
maybe
you go
we're in a
back
test
in the
tube or something.
If you go back in the family tree enough, and you can see it in other animals that they do reproduce and then don't need any nurturing from the parent. So it could have slowly happened. And this is why they believe that human babies come out at such a young age and they're so helpless, is because our brains evolved to be so big that they have to come out at an earlier age to make it through the pelvis.
Do you think they manipulated our DNA to make us retarded? And originally we just
with the internet
out of the
and
vagina.
drugs, with the internet and drugs and social conditioning, yes.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
I know they are working on current mRNA technology to make us even more fucked. So
Fuck that noise.
I think the discovery of cooking meats made our brains develop really fast because it helped change the proteins so that our brains could utilize it more. I think that's how we became smarter.
Fuck yeah. That makes sense.
That's
with that.
That's the theory that I've heard that makes sense.
All right. While we're waiting for Peter, what's something else I wanted to show you since we have some time? So I don't know if you're aware of this, Adam, but in Canada, there was an article in regards to Easter where in Canada they took someone's child away, the government did, because they wouldn't tell their child that Easter was real and the Easter bunny was real. Where do we got it here?
I don't know how that makes sense because Jehovah's Witness don't buy that shit either.
Yeah.
So you see my screen? Check this out. Requirements to say Easter Bunny is real violated couples' charter rights. So eventually they got the kids back, but An Ontario court says a couple's charter rights were violated when the Child's Aid Society of Hamilton took away girls they were fostering because the pair refused to tell the child the Easter Bunny was real.
Oh my God.
So the foster parents are supposed to tell the kids?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that like part of the adoption, rules, is that you have to celebrate Easter?
And
it's probably, I was going to say, if it's a Christian organization that would do that, I could see them imposing that you have to raise these kids Christian. I can guarantee they do that.
No, it was a Christian family that the government took the child away from for not telling the Easter, because society, you need to teach them all of these things that we are ingrained with. But Peter's going to join us here, and I'm going to have to get you and Peter and Phil to take over for 2 or 3 minutes. I got to run to the washroom.
What news?
I might need to go pretty soon too. What's up, Peter?
Peter.
Hey, what's up, Adam? How you doing?
You got the boxing thing in the background there. That's intimidating.
Oh shoot! I should have angled that so you didn't see that.
It's like,
somebody's gonna ask me to hit
your head if you get too mean.
How you doing, Phil?
Not bad. How you doing, Peter? Happy New
Good,
Year.
man. Good. Hey, Happy New Year, everybody.
Fuck yeah. So, how's life? How's things? How's all that
Busy.
stuff? Busy, huh?
Busy. Things are busy. Work's busy. Family life's busy. Everything's busy. Lots of stuff going on in the world,
Fucking right. So, I mean, East Coast has got all the questions, and he just ran to the bathroom. So,
have you been too busy to see any of my videos on Christianity?
No, I've checked some out. I definitely checked some out. I watched a lot of your stuff over, the years, like when you started out with the 9/11 stuff, right?
Oh, cool. Okay.
So I seen a lot of your stuff, Adam, and I always kind of wondered about where you sat and like what your beliefs were and whatnot. And then you got on to the Jewish thing, connection with 9/11, right? And when you first got on that, I remember you being like, really like, oh man, I'm stepping out into new territory here kind of thing, right? And you kept on going with that. And then eventually it seemed like that led you to where you're at now.
To Zionism, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I noticed. It seemed like you took like a really hard turn. Like a really hard turn.
Well, I wouldn't say so, because I didn't only talk about 9/11 at the time. I was talking about Zionism pretty much from the start, because remember I was also doing like exposing Alex Jones videos, and that was the thing.
Yeah,
Alex Jones won't talk about Zionism, so that was like exposing him, exposing 9/11, and then researching deeper into Zionism, which really is just Judaism, Judeo-Christianity is Zionism, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah, that puts the Judeo and Christianity.
Right, and then there was another progression. So at first I was like, okay, it's the Zionists, and I saw the Christians that were like believed, we call them Zionist Christians, right? Although now I believe all Christians are Zionist. That are like, complete, John Hagee, and curse them and you're cursed, and bless them and you're blessed, and, send them the money, and they're the chosen people, and they have the Holy Land. So I was opposing them, and then a lot of quote unquote anti-Semitic Christians were like liking my work, that I'm opposing the Zionist agenda. But then I realized that they're part of the problem too, and that they're a form of controlled opposition, because they're like, oh, it's only the Talmud that's the problem. And when I would expose the Torah, which is the blueprint and the foundation for the Talmud, basically, they would say that's God's word and Adam's blaspheming the Talmud and stuff like that. And then I saw how the Christian anti-Semitism actually benefits them. And then I learned a ton of stuff from Christopher John Bjerknes that really turned my world upside down, about the deep levels of Kabbalah. And once you learn their secrets, basically, and you look at the whole Christianity, Islam, Judaism from the outside perspective, it becomes really crystal clear. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, that it is just the age-old Hegelian dialectic, full spectrum dominance, controlled opposition.
So, kind of when you think about it, the Catholic Church, that would have been the vehicle of anti-Semitism, so to speak, over the years, right? And then when you had more of the Reformation, which was just about reforming the Catholic Church, right?
And the Church Fathers, which many of them, at least some of them, were certainly before Constantine adopted Christianity, and they had the Nicene Creed, and Theodosius, made it the only religion allowed by the Roman Empire. So basically, they couldn't defeat, Rome. Greek occupied them and conquered them, and then the Romans came and did the same thing. So they could never win on the battlefield. So they had to come up with a passive cult that targets Rome from within. So they converted Rome. Instead of defeating them on the battlefield, they converted them and got them to abandon their gods and their cultures and replace it with God of the Bible and the God.
You could say that they transferred from Mithraism into Christ worship.
They did, yeah, they did implement some of that, and because that was the common religion then that they had to convert people to. But this is a big theme of them using Esau. Esau serves his brother Jacob with the sword. And they used Rome to spread the Torah around the world and to do their dirty work for them. And then it says Esau will subjugate the world, but in the end, Jacob will basically take it from Esau. And that's when Edom and Christendom is destroyed as we know it.
The thing is, I'm going to say it, but that's a Jewish interpretation from the oral traditions and from the Talmud about the Jacob and Esau thing, right?
No,
and
it's all over the Torah, too.
You just hold on. Yeah, no, I know, but I'm saying their interpretation. Because in the story of Jacob and Esau, Esau gets a blessing. He says that Isaac tells him that he's going to live by the sword, but he says that one day he's going to throw off the yoke of his brother.
The yoke. Yeah.
Right? So where does that come into play?
That's a good question. I haven't heard, I don't recall off the top of my head what rabbis say about that verse. What that means.
You know why? Because they don't say that.
What do you mean they don't say it?
Because they don't want to talk about that part of it, right? They're stuck.
I would guarantee you that they do have an explanation for this, because they have explanations for everything in the Torah. So I'm certain that they do have an interpretation on this.
But would you agree with me that a lot of them don't actually believe the Old Testament and the stories in it?
No, many of them think that they're allegories, for sure, allegories, and they don't all believe that they really happen. Yeah.
Right. So that kind of gives them license to make up whatever they want, right?
Yeah, they do make it up kind of as they go along, and but they do have some oral law and that's handed down in the Kabbalah secrets for sure. And the throwing off the yoke of Esau, like number one, what do you think that means? And number two, like that could just mean anything, like that's Rome will rule over. That'll be the time of the Gentiles, and Rome and Esau will rule for a time, and then they will be destroyed. So that's throwing off the yoke, is them spreading, being powerful in the Roman Empire.
Esau threatened to kill Jacob, right? And Jacob fled from Esau.
Yep.
And when they met back up again, what's that?
Mm-hmm. To Laban, to his uncle Laban's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when they returned and reunited, right, Jacob, he was scared when he saw Esau across the water. Esau had a bunch of men with him, and he thought for sure that Esau was going to slay him, right? But Jacob sent
according to
the women and the children over with him. They all came over, and Esau, he said, "Who are these that are with you?" And he says, "These are my family." And they immediately embraced, and Jacob bowed himself to Esau.
Yes, that is the Kabbalah verse. Jacob humbled himself before Jesus because he saves his rule for a later time. What happens to Esau? How does Esau die?
In the Bible, the Edomites are given Mount Seir. I can't remember where he dies, if he dies in Mount Seir or not.
He comes to the grave of when Jacob's dead. I think I think that part's right, but for sure he's beheaded by Jacob's descendants.
Oh, okay.
Rolls onto somebody's grave. I think it's Jacob's grave. I should.
No, let's just stop right there. Just 1 second. I'm just going to interject right here.
Sure.
That's not in the Old Testament. You'll find that somewhere else, but you're not going to find it in the Old Testament. You might find it in the book of Jasher or something like that, but you ain't going to find it in the Old Testament.
says
I'm
I
fucking.
said I did. How does Esau die? Oh, and also I want to ask, do you believe Jacob and Esau is real?
Of course.
So do you believe that Jacob is the changed his name to Israel, is the Jewish people are the descendants of Jacob, and that the Gentiles are or Europeans are the descendants of Esau?
No, I believe that Jesus is the promised seed of Abraham from Isaac and Jacob. And when you want to talk about who the Jews are, okay, there's people that call themselves Jews today, but I just want to know what tribe they identify with, because technically there's only 2 tribes that they could even identify, or well, 3, I guess. They could be from Benjamin,
Levi.
they could be from Judah, and they can be Levi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? The rest Sumerian, so they're already mixed. They're already mixed with other peoples, because the 10 northern
10 tribes
tribes,
conquered by Assyrians, yeah.
right? And what happened to them? They get deported. Okay?
Yeah, they probably
get
mixed
deported,
with around
mixed-
the Assyrian Empire.
Not just the Assyrian Empire, Adam, all over
are you
the world.
going to give me
And-
the whites are the true Israelites right now? that
just
they're
hold,
fake-
no,
they're
just
the
no.
fake Jays?
You just wait. You just wait. Hold on, because that's part of it. That is part of it all, but that's part of this man-made. Because listen, I agree with everything that you're saying except for what you believe about Jesus being the Messiah, right? With the Abrahamic Accords, with Islam, with Judaism, with the church. I understand that
They're
these
setting up the
religions,
one world religion. Do you agree that they're setting up their one world religion of Yahweh
Oh,
worship through Christianity and Islam?
100%, but it's not going to be Yahweh. Are we okay? Yahweh the dragon. They're going to worship the Antichrist, which is going to be the dragon. You're talking about the Messiah and their Moshiach, but that is what the Bible calls the Antichrist, because before Jesus returns, the true Jesus Christ, the Antichrist has to come first, Adam. It says that.
Paul says that the Gentiles and the Jews worship the same God. It's the God that came to them first, and then they rejected him and goes to the Gentiles. So it's technically their God who was meant
right,
to.
but who are they worshiping right now?
Is it the goal of the Messiah, the Torah Messiah, to conquer the Gentiles?
It's to rule the whole world.
So you want the king of the Jays of the Hebrew Torah to rule the whole world?
No, because it
the
says
same
that
goal as the rabbis.
It says that there'll be neither Jew nor Gentile. It does. Is all it means. All it means is there's going to be the Israel of God, which is made up of anybody who has believed in Jesus Christ throughout history, has been saved by the blood of Jesus Christ. Okay, and the whole point about all this coming together is that they are bringing a man-made fulfilling of prophecy that's bringing back the people to Israel, claiming that they're the descendants and all this stuff, because they are without a temple. They desperately want to rebuild a temple because they haven't been able to actually keep the law for the last however many thousand years, because they haven't had a temple to do their sacrifices in. So they think that if they get that temple, and whoever gives them that opportunity to build that temple, they're going to crown him Mashiach.
I agree. Yeah, it'll be Mashiach ben David.
Yeah, the Antichrist.
In Isaiah 63, it talks about the Messiah that will come out of Edom and will destroy Edom, and his robe will be bloody. You don't think that's the I mean, it's not whether you think it. That is the character, the prophecies of the Messiah, what the Messiah is supposed to do. Destroy Edom, destroy the nations, smite the nations is who is going to be the ones losing in the end. So the point is that instead of helping me condemn the Torah and condemn the God of Israel, and condemn the notion that you want a Hebrew Torah line of David Messiah to rule the whole world, you're basically you're just like the rabbis, in my opinion, that you want the Hebrew Messiah to rule the whole world. You're the New World Order. You want a one world religion with the whole world on their knees like slave, worshiping the God of Israel that chose them. And it's not true that there's no difference between anybody. You're reading into that into Paul. Because he
Jesus
says very
Christ,
clearly that there's going to be a separate Israel that doesn't
Jesus
believe
Christ
that will
said
be
that
saved in the
I
end.
come in the Father's name and you do not receive me, but when another comes in his name, him you will receive.
Okay.
Jesus Christ came in the Father's name. Somebody
So-
else is
so-
going to come in his own name. When they say, oh, look, here's the Christ, or look, there's the Christ in the desert in the secret chamber, believe it not.
So you think it's God's plan that he has to send an antichrist to slaughter and enslave much of the world before Jesus can return? Why is Jesus up in heaven sitting, just looking down for the antichrist to come and do all of these things? What kind of plan is this? And the fact that you think it's God's plan for a Jewish ruler to rise up and rule the world, it's like you're being conditioned to accept Jewish prophecy being fulfilled with their Messiah ruling the world in a way.
No, but it's not, because I won't accept their Messiah.
Okay, well, even if you didn't, that's fine, because he would be conquering the whole world. Maybe you would be one of the ones that would be slaughtered. What does it say about Revelation? The Christians that believe in Jesus will be slaughtered.
Yeah, that's what it says, Adam. And
so
true
is that a
believers
win?
know this.
Do you believe in? Are you waiting for the rapture? Like you can't wait for the Armageddon so that everybody gets slaughtered because it's God's plan?
No, the rapture is not going to happen like John Hagee says it. Okay. Well, it's going to happen before Christ returns, but it's not going to happen before any trouble happens. That's for sure. Gog and Magog. Do you believe that it happens before Christ returns or after?
I've heard many different teachings. I don't.
Well,
I don't think it's actually going
says-
to happen supernaturally. It'll be whatever they're able to.
Revelation says it happens after Jesus Christ returns, after the 1,000 years reign. Okay. John Hagee and all the Zionist preachers and everybody like that, they all say
think it's
that God, they think that Gog and Magog is going to happen at any point in time. Okay.
Okay.
But the Bible clearly doesn't say that. Ezekiel 37, 38, 39 also says
I
the
get that
same
not
thing.
everybody believes in the rapture, and there's big disagreement about pre-trib or post-trib or
No, but it's
premillennial,
not
all these
about not
things.
believing the rapture. Yeah. The rapture is real. It's just the timing of the rapture that gets mistaken.
Here's, I think, a bigger question to ask you about this topic is, do you think this is a good God to have this plan where it's like his plan is for the Antichrist to rule the world? And you're okay with that because that's God's will?
Yeah, but he's not going to rule the world. He's going to be broken.
You think Jesus is going to float down in a cloud like it says in Revelation and with his angels and wage war?
That's what he says.
The book of Jubilees is where you can find that the story of Esau being decapitated.
The book of Jubilees, where's that from? Non-canonical. Non-canonical.
Well, just because your sect says it's non-canonical doesn't really mean anything from an outside perspective. And it says the, let's see here.
No, it's good for historical
hold on.
purposes.
Pseudographia. It's not considered canonical within Judaism outside Beta Israel. It's considered one of the pseudographic Roman Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Protestant churches. I mean, the idea of Jubilees being a book, that's well, what did happen to him then if that's not what happened? There's no other explanation given. That's the only explanation of the story have. That's what they believe. I don't think it happened at all, Esau decapitated. I think it's purely a fictional story. I think it's ludicrous, genetically impossible that all the Jews and all the Gentiles have a common, we're twins just 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago. It's genetically impossible and easily disprovable with DNA studies. And
no,
the
but
idea
it's not just the two of them, though. It's not just the two of them.
Mythology.
No.
That's not what they believe. They believe the descendants of Jacob is the Jews and the descendants of Esau is Edom, the Edomites.
Yeah, but
and
that would be incorrect.
According
that would be
to your
incorrect.
opinion. I mean, if there is no truth, then none of them are correct.
So listen,
if they didn't exist, nothing.
So the 10 tribes, there was 12 tribes, right? 13 if you're talking about Joseph and Ephraim and Manasseh.
I question if it's really 12 tribes or if this is just, astrological mythology.
Those people would have made their way all over the place. They were the Phoenicians, okay? The Phoenicians were on the border of Sihon and Tyre. and that used to be the border of Asher. And they had a lot of ships and stuff that went out of those ports, and they would have worked together with the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians didn't have a city, didn't have a center place. They were all over the place on the coastal ports. They traveled the whole world. There's evidence all over the world that Hebrews were all over the world, and they would have interbreeded just like every other person all over the world throughout history has interbreeded with other peoples all over the world. So the whole thing is, okay, there are people that are saying they are a certain people, that they are God's people. There are people that they are making all these really big, bold statements, but they don't have much proof, right? A lot of it is speculation. A lot of it is Jewish fables. A lot of it's Jewish fables.
The Bible and New Testament are all exactly that, Jewish fables. And the idea that Europeans
but the Bible strictly warns about avoiding Jewish fables, Adam. The New Testament,
but you believe in the Bible.
The word Jew gets referred to the most in the New Testament, only in the New Testament. Why?
Because it gives a negative connotation to it. That. What?
It gives a negative connotation to it. The 12
No, it
the
says
apostles,
that they're chosen. They're beloved on behalf of the patriarchs.
They're the church fathers, okay? The apostles are the church father, and Jesus Christ being the head, right?
Let me respond to some of this.
Okay, let Adam respond.
The idea that European people are secretly Jews that left there a couple thousand years ago is completely unreasonable. It took many thousands of years for white people up in Europe to develop the characteristics of Northern Europeans. I've had my genetic ancestry done. I don't have any Middle Eastern DNA mixed in with my ancestry.
So Esau is red hair.
Hold on. According to the story.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
And the idea that the way I see what you're doing is you want to be the chosen people. You want to feel like you're special and that God chose you and that you have the birthright and that you're truly Jacob and that they're meant to serve you. So instead of condemning the Bible and their supremacy, you're mirroring their craziness and then turning us into the villains and you're not, instead of all uniting against it, you're playing along with it. You're mirroring their craziness back to them, so it gets us nowhere.
You're the one trying to make me out to be a villain for what I believe. I've never sent a dollar. Hey, I've never sent a dollar. I've never sent a dollar.
You're misunderstanding what I'm saying about villains. Christians have been cast as the villains because of their anti-Semitism to the Jews.
Yes, but where's that comes from? What you said before. You said okay, I'm going to calm down here. Okay. So you said before, right? Or in your video, it showed they're talking about the Catholic Church, right? And how that it was always an instrument, right? Yep. I would agree. I agree 100% with that, right? And that's why I said the church fathers are the apostles, okay? Jesus is the head, okay? So the Gospels, even when they came out in written form, okay, they were not that far removed. Even if somebody was 30 years old when Christ was crucified and say they lived to be 70-something, someone along the way is going to be also following along with them, recording different sermons, recording the letters that they send to different churches. Paul, all of his books are all letters that he either wrote to churches or that he wrote while he was in prison, right? And Paul...
Why do you think we only have letters of Paul? Where are all the other early church Christians? Where are all their letters? Why do we only have Paul? And we have
there's
half. Hold on. Second point. Why do we only have Paul? And Paul wrote about half of the New Testament, and then only half of those scholars believe are his actual books. He never even met Jesus. Half the Bible is written by somebody who never even met him. He just saw him, quote, in the scriptures and in his visions.
He was right there when Stephen was stoned.
That's
he would have been
mythological. That's mythology and Acts.
Oh, right.
He never even wrote about that. He didn't write about Stephen like that in his letters.
It doesn't matter if he didn't write. Why would he? Yes, when I was holding the coach for them that were stoning young Stephen.
Yeah. The Stephen story is a rewriting of Jesus' persecution. Also, I was just reading a chapter on Stephen, and Acts and Paul, and it's mythological. There's many reasons.
You said about the scapegoat, Jesus being the scapegoat.
Yeah, and the Passover
right?
lamb. Mm-hmm.
Right. So, but the thing is, the scapegoat was the one sent outside, right? The sins were on it, and they sent it without the camp.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was Barabbas. Barabbas got brought up out of the jail because he was a murderer, rebel rouser, and he got sent out. The people cried out for Barabbas, and they sent out Barabbas. They freed Barabbas, and Jesus was the lamb that was worthy for the atonement of the people, the blood that was sprinkled onto the mercy seat, the throne of God.
Yeah,
so he's
totally
not
legit.
the scapegoat. He's
Totally
not the
legit blood
but that's the thing, Adam. You're running on the scapegoat thing when it's not even true. That's the problem.
I love this question because this is a big issue. I've actually emailed Dr. Carrier about this because Björknes has a video that Jesus is the scapegoat. And it's very clear. I've read academic papers by top scholars that say Jesus actually symbolically represents both goats, because it's very clear he's mocked, he's spit on, he's chased out of the city, basically led out of the city to be killed somewhere else, and that's all indications of the scapegoat. And also, the scapegoat is where the sins are atoned for. The high priest takes the sins of the Israelites, puts it on the head of the scapegoat, and that's why they have the ribbon, the red ribbon that goes out, and they chase it out into the wilderness as a sacrifice, a bribe to Satan, to Azazel, and they push it off and they scourge it like Jesus was scourged also, and they mock it, spit on it. And that is how the Israelites are atoned for the scapegoat. It's the Jewish belief and the Kabbalist belief is that the blood offering, one that they kill in the temple, is to cleanse the temple and I think the high priest, something else, but not all of the people in Israel.
No,
Jesus
they
is
do.
very
They
clear.
sprinkle it on the people too.
He represents symbolically, can represent both, but that's the thing, is it's all a symbolic tale. Mark is pure symbolism, taking prophecy Old Testament and rewriting them into a new midrashic story, and this is what they did. They had allegorical tales to where the initiates and the esoterics know the secret teachings, but for the masses they can just believe, okay, this is a historical thing, so they can take the lessons away from it. But Mark is not written by eyewitnesses. It's not written by apostles. The name Mark wasn't even on it until like 180 AD. And then Matthew came after and copied Mark, and then Luke came after and copied Matthew and Mark, and then that's who supposedly wrote Acts. And then those are the synoptic gospels, and you have the synoptic then you have John, which is completely different and contradicts many of the tons of things in the other synoptic gospels. So they're highly problematic. They're the worst kind of evidence. This is not historical documentation.
No, but that's the thing. The people that are often making these claims about it, they don't believe the Bible in the first place. So obviously they're going to make whatever claims they need to make against it.
No, that's not true. It's actually much more likely the other way around, because Christians want to believe this, so they have to defend every contradiction and every absurdity. Do you believe it historically happened that when Jesus was sacrificed, the dead rose from their graves and walked around Jerusalem? Because that's what it says.
Yeah, why not?
Historical? Why not?
Why not?
Because we know that miracles like that don't happen. All the miracles in the Bible are breaking the laws of nature. We never see that happen. But do people make myths? Do people lie and make myths? What's more likely the explanation? Obviously,
well, that's the thing too, though, right? That's the thing, right? Creation, okay? Obviously, you don't believe in the Bible's version of creation.
It's not even an explanation. It's just like God said poof and made him from dust and then made him from the rib. Like that's the type of explanation you get from ignorant people 2,000, 5,000 years ago.
What explanation do you need of something that you can't possibly understand? Science hasn't even given you you don't even actually know what's going on in space right now. What in space that do you know that is real? And I'm not saying it's a flat earth or anything either.
What I know is real. What I can see that there's the
but
sun,
you can't
there's the
see
moon,
into
there's
space,
the planets,
can
there's all the stars. There's
you just said about 45 minutes ago that we could be just a little drop, and there's another whole universe with other planets all over the place.
Yeah, but we can only see, as far as we can in our universe.
So that's plausible, but God creating the world,
don't you
from
think
his
it's good
voice,
that evolution at least tries to find an explanation, a natural explanation to prove life on Earth, instead of just God did it because he snapped his fingers in like a Marvel movie. There's Adam just appeared from the dust.
Well,
like,
the Big Bang just happened out of nowhere. The Big Bang apparently just happened out of nowhere, so that's a snap of the finger.
Yeah, but I don't, the Big Bang is just a theory, and who knows? It's even very Kabbalistic, actually, the whole idea of the Big Bang. They even say, oh, the Kabbalah predicted the Big Bang. So I'm suspicious of all that. There could be an eternal universe. There could be billions of Big Bangs. There could be a Big Bang on the other side of every black hole. Like,
that's very
to
Mormon
say
thinking.
The black, very Mormon, really?
That's very Mormon thinking, to have all the other gods out there and the universes and everything like that.
I
all
didn't
the
say other
planets out.
gods. There's a theory that the universe is created to create universes, and every black hole creates another universe. I don't think that's Mormon. Mormons definitely don't believe that, in fact.
Yeah, but it's still in that wheelhouse.
Okay, but I forgot, before you switched it to space, I had what was the thing right before you were saying before space?
I probably got myself off topic there, so I apologize.
Right before you said
this is good stuff, guys. This is good stuff.
Yeah. Do you guys have questions or want to interject for a second?
I'm fucking blown away. That's all. It's a great
I
conversation.
think this, Adam. Like, I sometimes here I'm coming off as being oppositional to you. I'm not trying to be, but you're also coming off oppositional in instances. Whatever. Okay, we're two dudes here and we're having a conversation. Listen, like you say, I believe on everything that we're working up to. Okay. Now the thing is, and I know that this is all happening regardless of if we wanted to or not. Right?
What is happening?
What's going on in the world, right? The Abrahamic thing, the Noahides, all that stuff, that's all happening, right? Everything that's going on is happening. There's nothing that we can actually do to stop what's happening. Right? Is there?
Well, I mean, if America keeps declining in its Christian belief, maybe we won't help Israel rebuild their temple. So, I mean, the belief of Christians makes their prophecies be fulfilled, because their prophecies were that we would believe in their God. So your belief is helping them fulfill their prophecies.
No, it doesn't.
Rabbis even brag about that.
No, it doesn't. But with your point, though, right up until World War II, we'll say, like the Catholic Church, okay, Nazis, everything like that, anti-Semitism that, came after the whole Holocaust and everything like that, right? So even the opinion in America, in North America, in the West at that time, after all the propaganda of the Holocaust, right, whatever the truth of it is, the totality of it, regardless of, before that time, there was a different idea of what was going to take place in the end times. But the whole Zionism thing to build Israel, to make it a nation again, to rebirth it, right, was in the works. Balfour Treaty, they've obviously been working for that for a while, right? After World War II and the whole anti-Semitism and the Holocaust thing and all that propaganda, churches and because of the cultural revolutions, racism, all this stuff like that, it all became about if you were Catholic or Protestant and you weren't for the Jews, right? You were either a Nazi or you were a Catholic. And a lot of Protestants, they obviously weren't Catholic, so they weren't going to side with the Catholics. So it was a controlled opposition, in my opinion, and very easily manipulated by Zionists to come into the church and start putting in all this dispensationalist prophecy that says the end of the church age is happening and the next dispensation is going to be the dispensation of the Jews. And that's why they push the pre-tribulation rapture, because that idea is to say, well, the church is going to be removed from the world and then the persecution of the Jews is going to take place. That's what they frame it as, and they frame the Gog and Magog war, right, before all this even happens too, or right around that time. Okay. And it's all conveniently all placed around this time so that if they're self-fulfilling these prophecies, okay, whether or not you believe it or don't believe it, when these things come upon the earth, it's going to throw the world into such chaos that people are going to believe whatever they're told to believe, just like what they did the last couple of years, right? And that's where the deception is going to go into real overdrive. I think there right now it's taking place is this falling away from sound doctrine. People, instead of believing the simple doctrines of Christ and believing what the Bible says, they're falling away because Christianity visibly from the Roman Catholic side and from the ultra-Zio side has really turned off a lot of people. And you can name a lot of other things too that you want to throw on the church. To me, all that goes to that controlled opposition that you're talking about, Adam. Mm-hmm. But despite that controlled opposition, the body of Christ, believers outside of these institutions have always existed and have always been persecuted. The Catholic Church, the Inquisition, the Jews like to claim the Inquisition now as that the Jews were all persecuted during the Inquisition. The Inquisition was a major persecution of Christians who would not bow their knee to the Pope and kiss the Pope's ring. If you had a copy of the Bible, okay, the Catholic Church, for instance, the Bible was in Latin. Nobody could read it. Only the priest, only the bishop. Even in Rome, nobody spoke Latin. Most people spoke Greek, okay? So if you were a commoner, you couldn't even read the Bible for yourself. When people started translating the Bible years and years later, if you got caught with a piece of it, if you get caught with any scripture, well, they'd kill you, right? They'd throw you in the Inquisition. They'd torture you. They'd make you recant and make you confess to all kinds of different sins, and then they torture you and they kill you. Christians have been persecuted by the church, right? Or Judaism or whatever, all throughout history. All throughout history.
Same as non-believers too. Yeah, they imposed. It's been very divisive for the Gentiles,
yes.
And they created Islam and Christianity, which also they pinned against each other. Let me summarize kind of what you're saying here, because this is an argument.
Let me say one thing before you do it, and I'll be really quick. They make it so that people will not believe based on the obvious, in my opinion, flagrant things out there that are totally antithetical to the Bible. It's like when you look at the Catholic Church and you look at everything that they wear and all the rituals they do and all that stuff, I see Judaism. That's what I see.
The Pope's yarmulke. So you do agree that the Vatican is controlled opposition to Judaism? I've always been saying this. I've always been saying a lot of Protestants do think that the Vatican is satanic. So that's also what the rabbis believe.
Right. But then there causes division because there's so many Catholics that are also, the anti-J stuff and all that.
The original and most influential church throughout history has been controlled opposition, in your opinion. This is the argument I hear all the time. They're not the real Christians.
Yeah,
they're following the fake doctrine of Vatican II or Schofield.
Never a true Scotsman.
No true Scotsman. That's exactly what it is. And there would be no subverted Christian Zionism of Pastor Hagee and the Pope if not for Christianity to begin with. First, they had to get you, if the nations of Gentiles didn't care at all about what these books said and just said, you were never chosen, your God, you just made up out of nothing. No, he didn't give you the land. If you said that instead of believing that the Bible is the word of God, they would have never been able to create this subversion. First, they needed to get you to believe it, and then they could manipulate it with the doctrine, with their influence, and all the big churches and all the big pastors with the influence and the money. They're all completely zog. So Christianity, you're trained that there's going to be a falling away, like that's a good thing. Oh, that's God's plan that the church is going to fail. Like, no, your church has just been designed to fail all along. And it was a Trojan horse from the beginning, and there was always these things in the scriptures. Sometimes they contradict each other, where you can point to one verse here or one verse there, and it's whatever you want to believe, whatever the doctrine's going to be. But there would be no Christian Zionism without Christianity. That's the bottom line. There would be
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna
the book of Jude. The book of Jude. It talks about it immediately in it. The book of Jude is right before Revelation, and it says that evil men crept in unawares. So very early. Okay, so we talk about, when you talk about, and everybody talks about, they're like, hey, did you know that the apostles were Jewish? Did you know Jesus was a Jew? And it's like, yes, they were Jewish, but then they were persecuted by the Jewish authorities, hunted down, killed. They used the Roman authorities to persecute them. They would always try to say, hey, these guys are starting a riot over here. They're turning over the whole city. You gotta throw these guys in jail, right? The same thing that they did to Christ. They used whatever power was in charge to persecute the apostles, to persecute the church, right? Same with all the way through Rome when the fire was started under Nero. Well, who started the fire? Well, who got blamed for the fire? The Christians got blamed, right? And so then the persecution continued, right? And eventually, when they had enough people converting on the lower levels, because common people see these things, they see people getting thrown into the Colosseum and whatnot, and they're converting en masse to Christianity. And so in order to keep control of the Roman Empire, they got to figure out something. So they use the banner of Christianity, and they just switch over all their pagan gods to different to Christ and the apostles and Mary and all this stuff like that, right? And meanwhile, all the people, right, that are brought into this new Christian religion, they're given the doctrine by the priest, but they're not necessarily given the same doctrine that was given to the apostles, right? The church was underground for years, where they had to meet underground. They couldn't meet in public. They had to be hidden all the time because they would be persecuted by the authorities.
Because they were
right?
a subversive Judaizing cult. The
Judaizers were always going around and trying to convince Christians and convince other people that converted to Christianity that they had to keep the law, that they had to keep the circumcision, that they had to keep the feasts. They were always doing that to them. And like you said, if they were Christians, right, why were they telling everybody, no, you don't worry about this stuff. Don't worry about that. It's not put on you to even worry about doing these things, keeping these feasts.
Paul didn't want the Gentiles to keep the law and circumcise because he didn't want them to convert to be Jews. The prophecies were that all the nations would worship the God of Israel, not that they would convert and be chosen people, because it's lineage, it's bloodlines. You can't convert to be chosen. They don't want you to convert to be chosen. So they need another way to get the Gentiles to observe some of the Noahide laws. Say that
Paul was hated by the Jews. He was a trained Jew. He was a Jewish Jew.
That's according to the stories.
He was a Jewish Jew.
He didn't want them to follow Jesus. They weren't supposed to. In his view, they were supposed to reject their Messiah, just like the brothers rejected Joseph. And you're saying that that they were Jews, but now they're not Jews anymore. It was who wanted the Messiah back then. It wasn't my ancestors up in Europe 2,000 years ago that were waiting to be redeemed and saved with a Messiah from the Hebrew Torah. That wasn't my people.
Why did your ancestors convert so easily then?
Well, I don't know that they did. A lot of Northerners fought it for 1,000 years, but that's besides the point. So the Messiah was supposed to do what? Come and free the Jews from their occupation, subjugate and conquer the nations and the Gentiles. This is what the prophecies call for. So they rejected him, meaning that he was their Messiah, and then now you're worshiping him. You're worshiping the guy that was supposed to conquer you to begin with and reign over you. You're playing into their game by worshiping their Messiah and getting mad like they rejected him and now I'm going to follow him. He wasn't even for you to begin with. So like obsessing over Jewish superheroes saving you from Adam and Eve mythologies is just like completely absurd in my opinion. And instead of exposing the whole Torah, you're playing along with it and happily as a sheep, as it says in the New Testament, following the Jewish Messiah.
May I interject?
Sure, but
okay,
you could pick up on that too because he said no. So I want to hear why it's not.
Okay, well, I'll let him answer that, and then I have two super short clips that Adam provided, I believe, some point in time during his streams that we could close this on. Unless you guys, we're at 2 hours, and you said you were going to go 2 hours, Adam. I don't want to keep you. Yeah. So we'll answer this question, and then go to these two videos, and then end on this last argument for this videos that I have. So go ahead, answer, Peter.
Okay. So in Ezekiel 37, it has the prophecy of the dry bones, right? And will these bones live again? And when in this situation, this valley of dry bones that's before Ezekiel, it raises up and it assembles itself together, and all the sinews come on the bones, and the blood, the veins and everything like that, and the skin and the flesh and the hair come upon them, and they stand up in their great army. And he says that this is the whole house of Israel. And he talks about there being two sticks. One stick is for the house of Judah and his companions, and one stick is for the house of Ephraim and his companions. And the two sticks will be joined together, it says.
That represents the two messiahs. Ephraim is related to Joseph, Moshiach ben Joseph.
Well, Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh, right? And if you want to look at the European Hebrew side of it, they would say that Ephraim and Manasseh represent Great Britain and the United States. But regardless of all that, right, there's this ingathering of people, okay? But the Bible says in Revelation, it says that God is going to be the one who's going to gather up his elect, right? He's going to gather up his people. And what's happening right now is a gathering of the nations and a gathering of the chosen people, right, to bring in this Messiah figure. And that all the nations, because that's the thing we know in the New World Order, all the nations are going to give their power onto this Messiah, right? Which is just exactly what the Bible says, right? So I'm not going to be ignorant of that fact, right? But my Bible says that Jesus comes after that, and that the possibility of me being persecuted and put to death at some point in time, if the Antichrist comes on the scene in our lifetime, is not only probable, but it's likely. But if it's not, I might make it till the end and see Christ when he returns. Now that's hard to grasp for everybody. But before any of that stuff even happens, okay? Before Christ even returns, the Antichrist has to come on the stage. Before the Antichrist has to come on the stage, all of these wars and all that stuff have to take place. All of this prophecy that they want to take place, that they're fulfilling right now with all the things that they're doing, whether it's geoengineering, whether it's political geo-manipulating, whether it's all these viruses and vaccines and all this stuff, whatever it is that's pushing us toward the digital ID, pushing us towards this new world order, they see that as their kingdom being refulfilled in Israel, so that all the nations will go to them to look for answers, okay? But the thing is, it's not going to be them. They are not the Messiah, okay? They see themselves as the Messiah. They put it all on themselves. Jesus, yeah, they're going
I've seen
to.
Some people say something like that, but no, they believe there's going to be a real life figure, a political leader that's going to lead in battle and rebuild the temple and destroy Edom and all these things.
But with him, what's he going to do? He's going to bring people underneath the Torah. That's what they say, right? They say all this stuff like their
laws are going to follow. It's Moshiach ben David. It's the second coming of the Messiah. They believe in two messiahs.
They say that they follow all this stuff, but when the rabbis, when the high priest, when they were questioning Jesus, okay, Jesus said to them that if you would have, you say that you believe Moses, but if you believed Moses, you would believe me.
Yeah.
But you don't believe me, So therefore, you didn't believe Moses, and that's where I was getting to the point when they don't even believe. They don't even believe the history in the Old Testament. So why would we take anything?
Does Adam have a response to this? He wants
and those ones that believe in the Old Testament, well, then maybe they'll actually come to the truth one day. They'll understand when. That's the thing. Their Messiah, when he goes into their temple that they rebuild and ceases the oblation from the sacrifice, then they're going to know when they've been double crossed. That's the thing. They're setting themselves up for a big double cross.
What do you think, Adam?
I think you're the one that's going to get double crossed because they're the originator of all these stories, and they're the ones that are obsessed with secrets, and they're the ones that are influencing, manipulating Christianity now, and basically running it. The prophecy in Ezekiel of the dry bones is they believe this is their verse about them being persecuted in exile and then being annihilated in a new Purim story, and then they at the Big H Museum event that they had this year, they cited and set out that verse of. So they believe that's about them.
I know that
they're the ones that return to the land. They're the ones that return to the land as well, and they're the ones that are quickly becoming a world power and dominating in technology and setting up a new Abraham Accords, the new world order, setting up the Gog and Magog war. And the whole idea
we're not.
that, like,
we're not in argument over that.
Yeah, I just think the whole thing is a death cult. Like, I hear you say things like the wars have to happen and this has to happen. You want the Antichrist to basically rule, because that means God's plan is unfolding.
No.
See,
that's the thing.
How
I would much rather to live at a time when none of this stuff was going on, when people just lived under their good conscience, right? Mm-hmm. And they hardly understood what God's law was, and they lived a little more simple life and mind their own business. Yeah, I would more prefer that. But the fact of the matter is, we're right here, and this is the time when all the deception is taking place, because everything's ramping up. And I'm not saying that these wars have to take place, but if they are conjuring them up to do them, right?
Because they're following God's plan.
No, they're not, because they are in one way. They are in one way because God says that he's going to lead Leviathan with a hook right in, and he's going to lead him right back out. He's going to bring all of his enemies to one place at one time. He's going to destroy them all at once. In Ezekiel 37, the dry bones, I understand that they say that's about the when they went away in exile. But the Jews and their Old Testament that they use, is it the Tanakh?
Yeah, that's the Old Testament.
It ends with them coming out of captivity and going back to the land with the chant, we're going to rebuild the temple, right? That's what it ends. But the Old Testament doesn't end that way. Our Old Testament ends with the promise of Elijah coming, which is John the Baptist preaching the way of Jesus Christ.
Do you want to see the temple rebuilt?
No, why would I want that?
Does the Bible not say that it will happen and that the Antichrist will sit in it? Does it not have the directions of how the dimensions of the Bible to be built?
Does that not tell you? But does that not tell you that the Bible's just saying, hey, this is going to happen, just so you know, this is what they're going to do, and they're going to say that
predictive programming. This is predictive programming.
The Bible says that they deny the book of Revelation, Adam. They deny the book of Revelation. They say, no, the book of Revelation, you can't understand that. Don't understand. Don't try to understand it.
The fact that you believe in the power of Hebrew prophecies, like you're elevating Jews to like a divine status, that they have prophets that can speak for God, and that they were. So you believe that they were once chosen?
No, the only person who's elevating Jews to speak for God is you.
No, Paul is. Paul says that they speak the oracles of God.
Not when they're not following the Old Testament. Not when they're not following the Ten Commandments. They can't even keep the law, Adam. There's nobody that follows the law under earth right now. There's nobody on
They're
earth.
Always punished. It's very sadomasochistic. You don't believe that the Jews had a covenant with God. You don't believe in the first covenant. You don't believe that they were once chosen. Did Jesus not come to his chosen people and they rejected him? Were they chosen or were they not chosen?
Moses came off the mountain and he had the shining of God upon his face, right? He got in the cleft of the rock, and God walked past him. He could see his hinder parts. It's the only thing he could see without it killing him. When he came down, they couldn't behold his face. And they said they put a veil over his face. And it says from that day that they put a veil on Moses' face, there's been a veil over the children of Israel's eyes when they read the scriptures. So they see through a glass darkly. They don't understand it. That's why they didn't understand Jesus. That's why they still don't understand Jesus. And that's why they're going to accept the Antichrist.
But they do. There's many Messianic Jews that are coming to Jesus now. Will you be happy if all the Jews start believing in Jesus?
Dr. Brown, Messianic Jew, running down up and down the aisles, going.
Well, not all Messianic Jews do that.
He's not a brother in Christ. Sorry, no, he's ushering in the Antichrist. You and I can both agree with that.
I think all Christians that are waiting for a Moshiach ben David to come rule the world, that sounds like an Antichrist to me. That sounds like the New World Order to me.
Okay.
Where do you think the Bible came from? Do you think Moses came down and did Moses write the Torah on Mount Sinai?
I think that so many Christians that are deceived by the rapture timing, okay? Mm-hmm. I think that because they're deceived by the rapture timing, when things begin to happen on earth and the Abrahamic Accords come more into play, they're going to end up saying that, oops, we're wrong about these prophecies. Oh, the book of Revelation didn't quite get it right. We have to interpret it this way, right? We're going to have to interpret it through some new eyes. Let's see what the Jews say about it. And that's what's going to end up happening. And then all the Christians that are like, yeah, okay, I guess I'm going to believe this, right? Because they thought without going through any persecution that they were going to just get a get out of jail free card, and that they were just going to be escaped and piloted off, right, without enduring any of the tribulation, any of the persecution of the Antichrist. The tribulation is about the persecution of the saints. And the saints are made up of a lot of different people who end up coming to belief. Sorry.
I think this is the crux of the issue, though, okay? The prophecies of the Old Testament would be that the nations would bow before their Moshiach, that they will reject and be blinded to for a time, but then they will realize, okay, he did spread the Torah all over the world, and make a couple tweaks, and then maybe they can acknowledge him in some way and have some Esau, Jacob, reconciliation. But the idea that they wanted the Gentiles to worship their Messiah, and that now, this was before Christianity, and then now you do worship their Messiah. Don't you see how you're falling into exactly what they wanted to begin with?
If I started saying that I read Torah, and I started calling him Yeshua and saying Yahweh, and I started keeping certain feasts and stuff like that, then I would say, yes, 100%, I've fallen for it. Right, but I'm not doing any of that. I don't think that you have to be a Jew, because it doesn't say. So what does it value?
But you
what
still
value
worship
is there
the Messiah.
Circumcision? What's
the
that?
The King of the Jews is now your king.
No, but the priests, they said when they put that on the placard, the Jewish high priest said, "Take that off of there," and he says, "I wrote what I wrote."
Right. Yeah, that's because they're supposed to take offense to that. That's how the story goes. But still, nonetheless, in the big picture, he's the King of the Jews. He came to the Jews. He can't, if he wasn't rejected by the Jews, he couldn't be the King of the Jews. But the bottom line is he's the King of the Jews, the Torah Messiah. They wanted the Gentiles to worship him, and now you do. So they accomplished their goal by you believing in their God and their Messiah.
Okay.
You're giving them that. Okay, yeah.
No,
I'm just pausing this for a second.
Okay.
I want you guys to take a breath. You guys are doing great. I'm getting so many comments in the chat. There's like, this is the best stream ever. Best debate ever. So
it's been pretty good. Thanks.
It's been pretty good. Yeah. So just pause, take a breath.
Yep. Good time.
I'm gonna play those 2 videos in a minute that I said that I and we're gonna have talking points that are gonna veer off kind of, but stay the same from what you guys were talking about. I just have to acknowledge a super chat that I got, right? Adam knows about these things. You get a super chat from somebody, sends you a message, you got to read it on air, because these are the people that support us, and this is why we come on the internet, and we're making an income basically from streaming. So I got a super chat from John A. He says, "Melodious nonfiction watching on Rumble. This is fucking great stream tonight. You and Phil have a drinky poo on me. You guys are doing great. Keep slinging the truth. Looks good on you." And then I got a entropy donation says,
I'm not doing shit.
I know. It feels good to sit back and actually not have to talk. But,
I'm learning lots.
So second donation from Short and Long on entropy. He says, this is happening because we are made of God's image. We need to make a choice, good or evil. Prove to me lines are not being drawn. So I don't know. That's what we're trying to prove tonight, bud. But
this is what I would want to ask him. Does it make you a good person to believe? Are you judging who's a good person if they believe in the power of Hebrew prophecy and accept the magic blood of the scapegoat sacrifice? Does that make you a good person or not? I don't think it does.
Well, you know what I think, Adam? Mm-hmm. I think like the people that lie the most and deceive us the most, that happen to just be owning everything, like the media, just happen to be Jewish. And in the Bible, it's like, Jesus is Jewish. Does he own the media too? You know what I mean? Like these are weird things I think about. But I'm just gonna, if anybody wants to send a donation, go ahead. I'll read it on air as soon as we're finished. Going to play these 2 super quick clips from Adam. I believe they originated from Adam. Well, they didn't originate from him, but he found them. So they're interesting. The first one is Christians want a Jew to rule the world, and the second one is God promotes war. And they're a minute each, so we're going to watch those back to back and then have Adam and Peter debate these and close up.
He writes in that same chapter in verse 26, all Israel will be saved. Say that with me. All Israel will be saved. That means God is not through with the Jewish people. And when Jesus comes back to earth, how's he coming back? He's coming back as the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Judah is the word from which we get the Jewish people. He's coming back as a Jewish rabbi to rule and reign over the earth. Give the Lord praise in the house.
Yes, the day is coming, perhaps much sooner than most think, when Jesus himself will come back from heaven in blazing fire with all of his holy angels with him to establish his glorious kingdom here on earth. Oh, how I long for that day. How I long for the day when the knowledge of God covers the earth as the waters cover the sea, when we finally see Jesus face to face. How I long for that time, the day when a Jew rules the world.
Hey, Israel, God's battle axe. Jeremiah 51:20. Read with me. You are my battle axe and weapon of war. For with you I will break the nations in pieces, and with you I will destroy kingdoms. I want to read that text also from the New American Standard Bible. God says to Israel, you are my war club, my weapon of war, and with you I will shatter nations, and with you I will destroy kingdoms. In this sermon today, I'm going to tell you of the love of God for Israel and the Jewish people. I'm going to tell you the debt of gratitude that every Christian owes to the Jewish people. I'm going to tell you the horror that the Jewish people lived through for 1,800 years and why they are fearful and suspicious of Christians to this day. What will be the end of the Russian Empire and the end of China that's causing the world so much crisis? And where will you end? You want to hear this sermon today? Stay tuned.
And go.
I've got his book, Earth's Last Empire, and he's talking about the American Empire. So he's teaching the same thing about Edom being destroyed. And but in that verse in Jeremiah, it talks about how Israel will be the battle sword that will destroy the nations. All of the Old Testament all over is about destroying the nations. I know Hagee doesn't represent you. I don't care. Jeremiah still says that they will destroy the nations. It said they will reign over the nations. It says they are above the nations. And this is the God deciding to believe in.
But he's not going to destroy the nations, though, right? He's going to bring them under God's
judgment and
will.
Obedience. Yeah.
Yeah, but
the God that
if
chose
they're
them.
Okay, just listen here. So, where are we at? Galatians chapter 6, starting at verse 14. Paul says, "But God forbid that I should glory, save in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, by whom the world is crucified unto me, and I unto the world. For in Christ Jesus neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but a new creature. And as many walk according to this rule, peace on them, and mercy, and upon the Israel of God." So the Israel of God, okay, does not just mean that you are circumcised and you have Jewish blood. The Israel of God is made up of many tongues, many nations, many peoples, because the Israel of God is throughout the entire world, just like the 12 tribes are throughout the entire world. And just because man is trying to fulfill God's prophecies artificially doesn't mean they're going to not come true in a real way when God destroys the Antichrist and when he actually brings all of his people together that he wants to bring together. Okay, so at some point in time, the world's going to choose this Antichrist, okay? They're going to choose this digital system. They're going to choose this mark of the beast. So at that point in time, it's basically whoever chooses the mark of the beast, well, they've chosen to follow and worship the Antichrist and his image of his name. And anybody that hasn't, well, then you are in line for being a tribulation saint. Whether or not you claim to be a Christian prior to that or not, you're refusing the mark of the beast, right? So what other alternative is there at that point in time?
According to the plan and their Noahide laws, they consider worshiping Jesus as a Christian and believing that he's a divine figure, that he is God himself, is considered idolatry. And the punishment for that is a violation of the Noahide laws, and it's decapitation. So if they roll out some Moshiach ben David figure, some ruler in Israel, some political war leader, whoever, and the rabbis start saying he's the Messiah, and they start telling the Christians he's the return of Jesus, and they all start believing it. The Christians that are the holdouts that say no, he's not real, they'll deal with you, and because they have all the influence, they're the ones that have the money, they're the ones that are pushing their agenda forward. So you will be crushed, and you think this is a good thing?
Adam, don't tell me. Adam, don't tell me. Don't tell them where I'm at, okay?
Also, you're making the argument from John Hagee that like we're all Israel. Why would you want to be Israel so bad? It's kind of like are you embarrassed with your own nationality and your own background that you want to have to be like them? You want to be a special chosen Israel like them? And Israel very clearly in Romans, in that verse that Hagee was citing, where it says, "And so all of Israel will be saved, as it is written." He very clearly identifies Israel as the Jews that are hardened to Jesus. So he's saying all of them will be saved in the end. The Gentiles will be destroyed and they'll be saved. We lose in the end, and they're the ones that originated all of this script.
But it says that in the Ezekiel, they're talking about the dry bones and whatnot, and then the battle of Magog and whatnot. When Gog and Magog come up against Israel, it's at a time when there's no walls, when there's no, when they don't have any weapons, there's no defenses, right? At that point in time, it says that David will be their prince and will be their prince forever. Okay? Well, it's not talking about David. It's talking about Jesus Christ. But in Ezekiel, because it's the Old Testament, they would say,
David,
my servant David.
Coming.
No, Jesus Christ.
Jesus only fulfilled the prophecies of
David. The branch of David, the root of David, Jesus
Son of
Christ.
David, yes. They believe in two messiahs. First, Jesus didn't fulfill all the prophecies, only the suffering servant, high priest, atonement prophecies. He still has to come back. He didn't finish the job, apparently, so he's waiting up in heaven to come back finish the job and conquer all the world, which is exactly what the rabbis want.
And kick the Antichrist and the false prophet into the lake of fire.
And all of Israel will be saved.
He's going to break the spell that's over the whole world right now. Yes, he's going to destroy all that. Everything that they're working towards, he's going to destroy, right? And you know what? And I'm not waiting because I'm like, oh no, right? I'm going to be fighting against that system the entire time, right to the very end. I a wife and I have children. Do you think that I want that to take place? No, it tastes good because you know the ending, but guess what? Going through it's going to be awfully hard on the belly. It's going to be hard on the system coming out the other end.
By believing in this, all Christians are participating in the manifestation of this story.
No,
even by
I'm not
opposing
participating
them and
in
saying you're
anything
against.
because I'm not partaking in the advancement of any of this. Because I'm not sending any dollars. I'm not partaking in any. Okay. I'm not partaking in the sins that they're putting upon the nation. I'm not the one turning away from God.
You're one of the few Christians that has it right, and then there's just billions of Christians that have it completely wrong and are misled. Does this sound divine to you? God's plan is for all of His church to fall away. That's considered a win. Massive wars, mass death, Armageddon, and this is all a good thing. You've been conditioned to think this is all part of the plan. So when it goes down, many Christians, even if you're not, are not resisting it. They're in fact participating and facilitating it.
So what's the good thing that happens then, Adam? What do we do? What do we do exactly? What's the answer here?
I'd say stop participating and dancing along to the Judeo tune. Stop playing the controlled opposition Esau role as the Judaism for the Gentiles.
Yeah, but I'm not.
I have a question, guys. I see.
We'll wrap it up in 9 minutes. We shouldn't go 2.5 hours.
Yeah. We have some good points on both sides. And I see both of you on each side probably has an obsession. And can we classify this as some kind of obsession? On the left of me, we have Peter. You are Christian. Every single day, do you wake up? Do you think of Christianity? Every single day you have that on your mind? And on the right of me, I have Adam Green. Every single day you wake up, on your mind, you have Christianity is false, and I need to disprove. So both of you guys are very convinced on both sides of these things. So in a way to wrap this up, and maybe we'll have a second stream because I thought this was fucking awesome. Excuse my French. If Peter could just summarize very shortly, I might add, 3 very short points, like a quick sentence, 3 points, why you believe Christianity is real, the 3 biggest things that makes you believe it's real. And Adam Green, the 3 biggest things that makes you believe it isn't real. And we'll start with Peter.
Three things, short answer. Well, I believe that the Bible is God's word, that He inspired prophets to write these words, and that inspiration is God breathed, so that they were not making up anything out of thin air and getting together and making this conspiracy. Rather, God spoke it to them. They repeated it. They carried the message. And I'm not opposed to controlled opposition coming along and trying to piggyback off of it the entire time. The Word of God, that's first and foremost, right? The Word of God tells me about Jesus Christ, okay? The Word of God tells me about the nature of the world, right? And what we live under. We can see that there's good things in the world. We can see that there is sin in the world. I would argue that everything that is good in the world comes from God. I would argue that everything bad in the world comes from sin. And not that that's a manifestation of God, but that's the exact opposite of God. And because there's sin in the world, we are separated from God. So why did God have to come to this earth and die on a cross for everybody as a Jew, right? The law was given unto the Hebrews through Abraham Isaac, Jacob, the 12 tribes, Moses, on down the line. Okay? It was given to them, and the law showed the world what sin was, and that by the law, sin was shown to the world. People wouldn't have known what sin was. Well, not that you wouldn't have known, but it outlined sin and what not to do. And by doing that, it made sin as something that was punishable. Okay? Jesus Christ, okay, came in place of the nation of Israel, because the nation of Israel was supposed to they had the oracles, they had the laws. They couldn't handle it. They couldn't carry it. They couldn't keep all those laws. Just like nobody today that's living or ever has, besides Jesus Christ, has ever kept the whole law. And he fulfilled every bit of the law when he was crucified, buried, and resurrected. He fulfilled all of the prophecies of the Old Testament. Okay, and you're giving
your 2 points need to be shorter, or your 3 points.
I know. You can't give me a 3-point question, man.
Everything turns into a sermon.
Yes, I know. Well, it's hard. It's hard, right? Like I can't just. If I say single word answers, then it's easy to pick apart. Because I mean, I gotta explain what I'm saying. But basically, God's word. Okay. What do I look? I look at creation. I look at archaeology, I look at history, right? Everything around me proves to me God's existence. The Bible proves it. I don't know what else I really need to say, but I maybe can't give a very good answer.
But your 3 points was one, the Bible, and the second one was creation, looking at the surroundings. The third one was what?
Well, I was going to say, because the Bible tells me about Jesus Christ, right? And because the Bible tells me about Jesus Christ, it actually confirms who God is. The whole purpose of Jesus Christ is so that the whole world, and when it says the Gentiles just means those that are outside of the Commonwealth of Israel. But by the blood of Christ, we are made nigh unto the Commonwealth of Israel, grafted in. The wild olive branches grafted into the olive tree. The olive tree whose branches were rotten and didn't produce the fruit, so they rotted off. But they can be grafted back into someday, somehow, when they come to the true belief of Jesus Christ.
Adam, the 3 biggest pieces of evidence that you have that Christianity is a psyop.
Mm-hmm. The pervasive, prevalent goal all throughout the Old Testament, Yahweh's goal, he's jealous. He wants to wipe out, eradicate pagan idol worship, and he accomplished this through Christianity and Islam. That's how they imposed Torah messianism on the world. They Judaized the world through Christianity and Islam. They believe they got the nations, as was laid out in their prophecies. Their objective, their goal of God's chosen people was to get the other nations to believe in their God. That was their ultimate goal, to be the light into the nations and get them to worship their God. And they accomplished this goal thanks to the vehicles of Christianity. And now half the world worships the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, believes the Torah is the word of God, affirms their once chosen status, and proudly follows their Torah Messiah who was meant to subjugate them all along. It's all going according to their plans. Their top rabbis brag about this. It's the consensus that Christianity is fulfilling their prophecies and playing into their hands. And I don't need them to tell me this, because I can see it playing out. I see how Christians are the greatest allies. Even their persecution has ultimately benefited Judaism, and with the victimization status and turning us into the villains. And we can see the success. It's been such an overwhelming success that I can see them finishing the end of their prophecies, which are terrible for humanity and the whole world, with these wars that supposedly have to happen with this genocidal God. You can see the success with, you go out in public, you see everybody wearing crosses of the martyr of the Jewish king, the Torah Messiah that was meant to come and redeem the chosen people. And the idea that God had to incarnate himself as man, or have his son and die, suffered on the cross, in a blood magic Yom Kippur scapegoat ritual, and you have to believe in this, and then your cell is pure guilt-based mind control. It's carrot and stick, eternal life if you believe, eternal punishment if you don't. This is preying on people's fear, and you said that, you know, we're branches grafted in. You're Gentiles grafted in to the Jewish covenant. You're grafted in to the Jews, like it says in Romans 11:18. Talks about the branches that have broken off the Jews that don't believe at the time, and the Gentiles are the wild olive shoot that has been grafted in to share in the nourishment of the Jewish God. And it says, do not boast over those branches, the Jews. If you do, remember this, you do not support the root, but the root supports you. So you're supported by the Jewish root, and all of Israel will be saved. They're the ones that came up with this story. They're the ones that are engineering it and have the secrets and playing Christians as their greatest allies like a fiddle, and they're the ones that are going to come out on top if Christians don't wake up that this is a big deception.
Both of you guys love run-on sentences. I would hate to be your kindergarten teachers. But, you know, you guys, I thought this was a great stream. What do you guys think? What do you think?
Peter was cool. I haven't debated a Protestant for a while. I believe you're some kind of Protestant sect, so it's good. And he seems like a nice guy and had passionate arguments, so I enjoyed it. And you guys are awesome.
And we should probably do a sequel in the future.
I learned quite a bit this evening.
Check out my videos. I've got a playlist on Odyssey, The Christian Deception Exposed. I've got a bunch of videos on there. Watch those. I get deep into all this stuff. I'm only really scratching the surface with the basic talking points today.
Shit. Hold on here.
That's your homework, Peter.
Listen.
And I'll debaptize you whenever you like.
I'll say something.
Your spell, bro. I'm trying to free your soul from the chains of Yahweh. That's all I'm doing.
Let me say something. Thank you, Matt. Yeah. And thank you, Phil, for having me on. And thank you, Adam, for coming here and having the conversation. I didn't know what it was going to be like coming on here, to be honest with you, but I wanted to come into it having a conversation because I don't disagree with you on everything. I just disagree with you. We diverge at a very certain point, but we're both on a lot of the same information. So I'm glad we had this conversation. You're not going to debaptize me anytime soon, but I'd love to have another conversation again and talk a little bit.
That'll do it.
Talk a little bit more about some of the Old Testament stuff and, you know, the ancient Israel and the Canaanite stuff and all that. There's a lot of really good topics and a lot of things that we can talk about regarding this. And I just thank you. Appreciate you guys having me. And thank you, Adam, for coming on and being a good sport.
Fucking right.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the outro song. And if Adam makes a comment on the YouTube chat, I'll make you a moderator so you will be able to post your links for your content. And for anybody, Peter or Adam, if you want to participate in the green room chat that lasts probably 10 minutes after the outro song, then you're more than welcome. And here we go. Last comment, Adam, you had?
I was going to say I got to go to the bathroom and get to the family, so I don't know if I'll stay in chat, but I just commented in the chat, so I'll try to share. I'm sharing the playlist on Odyssey to all the videos on this topic.
Okay, so add moderator. You now should be able to post links. And I'm going to play the outro song, and I shall see anybody who, I know Phil will be there, anybody else who wants to participate, I'll see you in the green room.
Thanks a lot. This is great.
Thanks. I'll be back.
Thanks, guys.
Keep your eyes open. Keep it Canadian. It's been Phil Brown.
And he's still Canadian.
Peace.